Does he have it?
Medeiros is going to get it.
They're going to toss it. They haven't got it.
He's on the outside line though, going into the fastest corner on the circuit. Surely this can't work.
Dominic Ligner has got a sensational run outside line now though for the heavy braking zone. Around the outside goes the Audi R8.
Look how much Miller's caught back into play. Exactly, Miller's still start trouble. He's not on second and change. All of a sudden, Miller's back in play.
Can Barry do it? Big Barry's going to do it. Big Barry! Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Le Mans for the next round of the World Sports Car Championship Historics, taking us all the way back to 1985, taking us to this great venue for round 4 of our championship, the 2.4 hours of Le Mans, the second and final 2.4 hour race here this season. What a lineup we have in store for us here today. Nearly 30 drivers in these great machines, looking to make their way around this very, very long circuit that is a blast from the past, really. No chicanes on the backstretch, of course, and a slightly different look to the first sector as well. It is a very exciting evening in store. Myself, Ian Delirian, and Shawn Pulsifer are going to be taking you through the action here tonight with James Parfitt behind the cameras for us this evening. Good to be alongside you, Shawn. Very much looking forward to this. We're getting towards June. It's Le Mans time in the real world. It's the most exciting time in the year, in my opinion, to be a sports car fan, and we're kicking off here with the historics from Le Mans with no chicanes on the back straight. Very much looking forward to this one.
Oh, absolutely, Ewan. Great to be here with you. Great to be here with these fantastic cars on this classic track. Tricky in any condition, this track, but specifically with these cars. Quality looking like it went well, so it should be a very exciting race today.
We're very much looking forward to it. The third of our timed races, actually, but as I mentioned, second of our 2.4 hours. There's the rest of them. Daytona, which started this season out earlier on in February. Then a month later, Sebring, 1.2 hours. That was a very good one to go to, actually, because such the difference, same as here, really, such a difference in the Sebring layout in 1985 compared to the modern day. Mugello was in the last round only very recently, and then a little bit of a break after this one. So Monza will be coming up next. Then Silverstone, Hockenheim to end a sort of European mid-part of the season. Bit of a break in that to go to Mosport at the end of August, with Spa Brands Hatch to continue that. And then to end the season off abroad, away from Europe, in Fuji first of all, then Sandown on the 6th of December. We will be in the final round of the season, finally, for the World Sports Car Championship Historics in 1985. And this is where we get to the circuit, because this is a very, very unique one indeed. This layout of the 24 Hours of Le Mans circuit, just over 13.5 kilometres, around 8.5 miles. This is the layout that was used in the real world from 1979 to 1985, which this series is based upon, 1985. The changes within it, well, I guess you can see the first of them through turn 1. The Dunlop curve is actually a curve rather than a chicane, as it is nowadays before the bridge. The chicane after that is fairly similar before Tete Rouge, which again, fairly similar, and then no chicanes on the back straight, which is the change. Then it really isn't any changes until you get round to the very end of the lap. You notice the Porsche curves look a little bit different, although not noticeably really. They are still the same challenge as what they are today. The Ford chicanes are quite noticeably different though. They're a bit faster actually in this layout than they are in the modern day, so just look out for those couple of changes here around this circuit. But I've got to say I quite enjoy it in this layout. This is what the drivers will be looking out for in terms of the race strategy. It is a very slipstream heavy circuit, and one of our keys to the race later is going to be about how you can save that fuel, targeting around 5 litres a lap at 3-minute 20s. That's a lot slower than what we've just seen in the qualifying session, but that is normal in this series. Over the course of 46 laps, we should be getting to the end after 2.4 hours of racing. Let's see who's been getting to the end first in the previous round, starting with the C1 Pro Championship standings. Dan Herlock is currently leading the way by just 3 points, ahead of Eduardo Benenka, who won last time out at Mugello. JT Tami is 5 points back alongside Becky Ely-Clark. Robin Moling only a half point further back than that. Mike Bell's 10 back, with Elko Bussink 10.5 back. Then you get to Tom Lane, who's 8 better, Scar Pope and Oliver Day. That rounds up the top 10. And then you get to those who haven't scored very many points so far this season. Smile Power Racing Jaguar XJR6 team are currently leading the way with 6 points more than the Retro Monsters Porsche team of Bussink, Moling and Bradley Sellers, who finds himself down in 19th with only a half point to his name in the championship so far. In the Pro-Am standings, Ross Smith is leading the way, and we'll hopefully be able to chat to him rather shortly. Antonis Paparanopoulos is in second, 5 points further back, with John Ewan 2 points further back from him. 20 points tied for fourth, Mike Dern and Tony McGoffin, with Troy Ewan in sixth place. Adrian Rice, Luca Tavanari and Daniel Scott are the final drivers who have actually got points so far. Oliver Newman and Yuka Takanasi have yet to finish a race so far this season. The Cookie Mobsters team are currently leading the way by 12 points in the teams, as you can see on the right-hand side as well. And in the AMs, Peter Meyer is leading by 3 points ahead of Jerry Gent. George Angelidis 15 points further back, with Vinicius Gonçalves in fourth place, 2 points ahead of Maximilian Putrafaki, and then Carl Struel, they're both tied for fifth place. Gilles Lalonde is next ahead of Stephen Miller, with Wayne Hutchison and Adam Gray rounding out the top 10. Stacey Scott's the only other driver to have scored points this season. Martini Racing, Lancia are currently leading the teams as well in the AMs. Well, we've gone through all that. Let's chat to one of those drivers who's leading a championship, the Pro-Am Championship. Ross Smith now joining us here before the race at Le Mans this evening. Good afternoon to you, Ross. I've just seen you out there. I wasn't paying quite as much qualifying attention to your qualifying time, sorry, but I saw you going pretty well in practice. How are you feeling around this circuit?
Oh, I'm doing okay. Thanks for having me here. Yeah, the qualifying was a bit tricky. I had a really good run, and unfortunately, it went a bit sideways. So Fouter was trying to help me out, give some slipstream, which is going to be pivotal for this race. You're not going to make it to the end unless you do some serious saving if you can't find a partner.
Are we right, or am I right, to draw some comparisons to Daytona in that sense? The only other 2.4 hour race on this calendar. Very straight line speed heavy like this one, and we saw very heavy fuel saving that afternoon as well.
Yeah, a lot of similarities. Le Mans is going to be much more difficult because you're kind of forced to stay at top end for much longer than at Daytona. Daytona allowed a lot more opportunities for lift and coast, so it breaks it up a bit more, and there's just nothing on that Mulsanne straight. So if you're out there alone, you're going to really have to make up for it when you get to the twisty parts. Unless you're in the MCA, and then you don't have to worry quite as much.
I've noticed that not as many drivers are in the MCA as some of the other manufacturers, so that is notable. But what about the other manufacturers here? I remember again from Daytona, drawing comparisons there, we saw some very strong performances in qualifying from certain manufacturers, and then really not a strong race pace. Apart from the AMCA, where are you looking for in terms of manufacturers, for many manufacturers that are going to do well and maybe not?
I think the Lancia and 956, they'll probably do okay. Honestly, they're all going to have strengths and weaknesses as the race goes on. The most important thing is just positioning yourself to be able to make it to the end, because fuel concern for everyone, even the MCA to a degree, is going to be huge. So if you cannot work out the way that fuel saving is going to be early on, if you chase the rabbits, as they say, then you're going to struggle a whole lot at the end, and you'll find yourself basically limping around the track just to make it home.
And how do you think that everyone's been finding this layout of Le Mans as well? It is slightly different in some places. It's not totally different, but slightly different in some places, obviously, to the real-world version we know today.
Well, sure. I mean, the biggest difference, of course, being that you have the entire length of Mulsanne to just completely run almost flat out. So it's going to be a place where drivers are going to find a lot of familiarity. A lot of the corners, I'd say probably maybe maybe Indianapolis, it's a little bit different shape. Obviously, you don't have near as much in the way of being able to run off there because you have a wall. So it's a little bit different there and almost on, but realistically, the rest of the track, drivers aren't struggling too much. I think the biggest issue that drivers are going to deal with in terms of this layout is the pairing with these cars, because it's totally different in the way that the braking zones are, even between the different cars. And I know JT's saying that I'm not totally correct on the IMCA, but it is going to be it's going to be difficult. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, the concertina effect around this track, especially in multiple classes, can be a big consideration, especially going through the S's, coming in through the Ford chicane, that kind of thing.
Oh, yeah. I would say that 100% is going to be focused on finding a partner that you can slipstream on the Mulsanne. If you can hang with people through sectors 2 and 3, or I guess sector 1 and 3, then that will make a big difference in the end. There are obviously a lot of penalties that need to be served out today, so it'll be interesting to see how that ends up affecting the race. But other than that, it's and then we've got rain in the area, so we'll have to see how that comes into play.
Yeah, I'll go down the list of penalties in a little while, actually, by the way, when getting set for the race. But one last one from me, Ross. What's the start of this race looking like? Is there a whole formation lap? And how are we getting this race underway? Because we've got some conflicting reports. So what's the news on the formation lap situation and whatever before this race?
Well, last I heard it was going to be a full formation, but I think I just missed George saying that he was shortening it up to be a start point further down the track. So I'm going to go get that confirmed, but I believe that it does need to be something that would maybe be coming out of Mulsanne. Traditionally, we've come out of Tetra Rouge, and that's where your race can start when we're doing some of these, but I'll confirm it.
Yeah, all right. Thanks very much for that. Thanks very much, Ross, for coming to have a chat with us, and we'll see you out there on the track. Good luck for the race.
Would love to see you at the end. Have fun.
Yeah. Hopefully see you at the end. Thanks very much. That's Ross Smith in the preparations for this race that will be getting underway in the next quarter of an hour or so here in the virtual World Sports Car Championship Historics. I'm not sure really what to take away from that, Shawn. Lots of unknowns really going into this race, and I know you weren't with us for the Daytona round, but I can't tell you how much fuel saving there was for that race, and so we're going to see a very, very big fuel saving race. I think in this one, that's for sure. How are you in terms of fuel saving? Is that something you'd be pleased to hear or not?
Well, fuel saving can get a bit tricky, especially late in the race when you're also trying to combine strategy and still be competitive running out front. It's always a bit of a dance, with the car and the pace. I think there are definitely going to be some challenges around here. Sounds like the IMCA car is going to have maybe the least of the troubles as far as long range goes, but we'll see.
Yeah, it's funny hearing Ross saying what he was in the booth with us here, and JT Tommy in YouTube chat saying that he's absolutely passionately disagreeing with Ross that the MCA requires massive fuel saving. So who do you believe? I mean, these drivers are not very good at giving us straight answers, to be honest, and there's a prime example of it. A good afternoon to everybody who is chatting along with us here this afternoon. Kim already, who's come to us, as JT Tommy as well, is watching from a family reunion today and hoping for a good race. Well, hopefully it is a good race here as well, or for everyone to watch along. We will see in the next few moments, though, of course, as we get this one underway. Everybody practicing the pit entry there as they come into pit lane. The track certainly seems to have dried, I think, is one of the big stories of the last few moments. We were just chatting in practice, Shawn, and throughout qualifying about the real wetness of the circuit. It was all over the place earlier, but now it is looking pretty good out there, pretty dry for the drivers, which they'll be probably quite pleased about, really, to start this race.
Yeah, absolutely. No chance of rain on the forecast here. Our wetness level on the track has dropped significantly, almost to nothing. It was kicking up quite fierce during early practice, mid-practice. You saw a little bit of it, not the rain so much, but a little bit of the wet track conditions early on in qualifying, and looks like everything's beautiful now. It should be an absolutely wonderful start to this race.
It looks like the conditions are getting a bit better, which is a positive for everybody. I feel. Let's just read through, and they are getting ready for the grid in the next few moments, by the way. So we'll get to that here in a moment. But just before this race starts, I want to read out the penalty list because it is quite significant throughout the field. So Alexander Schultz has got 15 seconds of a stop and hold. That's the least of the penalties, by the way. So get yourself braced for what's about to come. 75 seconds for, and get this, Nicholas Kirsten, Troy Ewan, Elko Bussing, Robin Moling, Becky Ely Clark, who I don't think's here, by the way, Tom Lane, Timon Suvic, Magnus Dahlgren, Ross Smith, and Antonis Paparanopoulos, all 75 seconds in a stop and hold. Adrian Rice has got 100 seconds, and Wouter de Bruyn's got 115 seconds, which is 1 minute 55 in normal money. So that is an awful lot of penalties to start this race. Not an ideal way to begin. And when you actually look down the list there, you start to realise, actually, that's about a third of the field here that are going to have penalties throughout the start of this race, Shawn. So this is going to be very much about staying out of trouble, as we know, over the course of a 2.4 hour, but especially based on how this race is going to start, with a lot of drivers down pit lane getting stop and hold penalties.
Yeah, going to be a real challenge for them today to pick their way through the traffic and get back up into the top spots again. Be an interesting one.
So we'll be getting onto the grid here in the next few moments' time, of course, as we get ready for the 2.4 hours of Le Mans, the VWSC Historic Series, of course, paired with our modern series that goes alongside this here at the CMS Racing. Fantastic to be a part of it all over again in this calendar season. Been a wonderful year of racing so far, 2025, and it is still going to continue on. The next race, by the way, in the modern series is going to be here at Le Mans as well. A little bit of a break from here until then, but the 4.8 hours of Le Mans, the blue ribbon event, if you like, of the modern series is going to be at the start of June. I think it's the weekend before the real race, actually, if you want to mark it up like that. So make sure you join us for that. It'll be broadcasted, of course, all live here on the JPB YouTube channel, as always. Going to be a long race, though, and you'll be pleased to know, these drivers will be pleased to know, the drivers can make a driver change at some point and pair up with some others to do that race, because 4.8 hours, it's a very, very long race indeed for the drivers in the modern series that we take on. Apart from this historic series, this, though, is the longest race here in the historic series, tied with Daytona, of course, Shawn, and 2.4 hours is certainly going to be one of our keys to the race. It's going to be concentration. Staying concentrated over the course of this period of time is going to be a challenge that you don't often get, really, in racing anywhere.
No, definitely not. I know you call it classic. These were races I went to when I was a kid back in the 80s. So for me, this is a lot of nostalgia. It's exciting to see these cars out on track, still doing their thing, even if it's just digitally. These drivers are some of the best, so it should be an absolutely cracker of a race today. The moderns are good. I like watching them. I've seen the last few races they've had here in the series. Really exciting stuff, but nothing feels like a classic.
Yeah, absolutely. Which races did you go to, by the way? Was it in North America, I'm presuming?
Yeah, I'm Canadian. We used to have a track not too far outside where I grew up here in Calgary. It was called Race City Speedway. Little known track. Did everything from derby, crack up derby races to full road, oval, and then we had motorbikes as well. So yeah, it was a little bit of everything.
Oh, there you go. I unfortunately wasn't alive to see these cars. I must admit, but there you go. It's
notorious for body parts flying off, I'll tell you.
Yeah, Yeah, I mean, I must admit, when you look at these cars, the bodywork does look, I don't want to say strange, but, unusual, I think, is the word I'd use. But, it's a product of the time, I suppose. If you only have the research available to you at the time, whatever, then you put the bodywork on, and that's how it is in one of these. But anyway, the drivers are gridding up now and getting ready for the race. Let's have a look at the keys to the race for this one, because it is a very important few things to note. Slipstreaming to save fuel. This long Mulsanne straight, as Ross was saying, requires a lot of flat out on the way down towards the back end of the straight. And so if you're in the slipstream, you can lift off, save a bit of fuel. Focusing over the course 2.4 hours, we just talked about that. It's a challenge you don't often get, because races of this length or longer, you're normally sharing with another driver, and that is a different challenge to what we've got here, solo driving for 2.4 hours. And maybe the rain will reappear. It's dried up since the qualifying and practice sessions, which were run in the wet weather, and in practice especially, it was very wet. The rain has gone away now, though. How long is that going to remain? We will wait and see here in this race. Let's have a look then at starting grid, as the drivers are now pulling away for the formation lap, and we're not entirely sure how long it's going to be until they actually get racing here. So here's the starting grid for the Le Mans 2.4 hours. It's Valtteri de Bruin who's on the pole ahead of Elko Pulsifer. They've both got penalties to serve early on, so they'll drop back. Tom Lane and Adrian Rice are on the next row. Only Adrian Rice has not got penalties from those top four, by the way. Eduardo Beninca, who's second in the championship coming in today, is in fifth ahead of Robin Moling, with Tony McCoffer at Elverman in seventh ahead of eighth placed Timo Suvic, Scott Pope and Magnus Dahlgren will be or Ethan Funk rather it's Magnus Dahlgren. Daniel Hurlock will be in the 12th position at the end of row 6. Oliver Day comes through 13th position ahead of Peter Meyer, with Johnny and Adam Gray on row 8. 17th place has gone to Ross Smith, who couldn't quite get that qualifying lap together, as we were talking about earlier. Maximilian Putrafigi is in 18th ahead of Troy Ewan and Jerry Chen, who are on row 10. Then it's Kivert in the 21st position ahead of Stephen Miller and Philippe Decati. That is a row of 4, by the way, all AM drivers in one go. Daniel Scott is next to Pro-Am in 24th. Vinicius Gonçalves and George Andelidis will be on row 13 ahead of Stacey Scott and Matthew Ciprigioni in that 28th position. And then we should get a couple more at the back end of the field of Santiago Dancourt and Antonis Paparanopoulos. 30 drivers on the grid. It's a pretty full grid indeed as well, as the pace lap is indeed going on. We haven't got a safety car in front of them, so they are just going around at their own speed, which is, I think, a good thing, probably. It's not going to take ages, but it will be a full lap for these drivers to go round before beginning this race. And it's going to be feeling pretty congested out there as well, with 30 drivers on this circuit. At least it's going to feel congested for now, Shawn. We were speaking before the race. It might well get a bit more spread out later on.
Yeah, for now we're looking at Wouter kind of just setting the pace here out front, finishing off this formation pace lap.
They will get back round again to the front straight to start this race in a normal fashion. Then they'll have that run up towards turn 1, which is not a chicane on this lap. It is a curve to the right. JT Timey giving us some more information to back up his claims about the EMCA earlier on. He said he tested the March on the after the 2-hour race on Tuesday here. The difference was 5.7 litres for the EMCA and 5.9 for the 5.7 for the March, I think he means, and 5.9 for the EMCA, with no lifting on the straights. The difference is speed, as the EMCA has the torque, while the March has turbo lag. So there you go, that's a bit of information between those two different manufacturers. Of course, there's others out there, the Lancia and the Jaguar, etc., that are out there on the circuit, but the EMCA is been favoured by some heading into this race about the best manufacturer to have coming into this one. We do also have, by the way, something else I haven't mentioned so far, a time multiplier here for this race. So 2.4 hours times by 10 in terms of a time multiplier. That means we are going to go for a whole day-night cycle, but because we are getting more towards summer now, it is a much less of a nighttime driving experience than what Daytona was, which happened in January. I think that's going to be a relief to these drivers, to be honest, Shawn. Less driving in the dark might be the better for most of them.
Oh, I agree. Any chance you can keep vision on the track is always a chance the driver's going to take. So, I prefer definitely driving day overnight.
And that is thankfully how we're going to start this race. It looks like Valtteri de Bruin to me has just slowed down his pace lap a little bit here. But it's a very weird thing, isn't it, at Le Mans, when you have a formation lap? It's a very, very long time to think about how you're going to go through turn number one. And sometimes too much time to think can be a bad thing for some of these drivers.
Yeah, and it's a long sweeper, that Dunlop curve going into that really fast chicane. So how you get off that line when you're the one starting can dictate the rest of your race, really, going into coming out of that orange section, onto the straight.
Yeah, the orange zone that stretches all the way down to Tete Rouge and then out the corner of Tete Rouge, they will be able to get racing. I do wonder whether there's going to be a bit of jockeying for position as well, though, about not being in the lead here, because we've seen so much about the slipstreaming and the fuel situation that these drivers are in here today. And I just wonder, is Valtteri de Bruin going to try and give up the lead, and is anybody going to take it away from him here if they're all looking for slipstream?
Right, and you do have to look for some cars, coming through the back of the pack with more pace. We don't see an Emka in the top 5 or 6, so look for Scar Pope to maybe come through down that back straight with some speed. Should be a lot of jockeying for position coming out of corner 4 or 5.
It certainly will be in this largely unchanged first sector. In fact, they only really changed that second chicane in the very late, I think 2000s actually. Maybe I'm remembering that wrong, but not that long ago since they changed that chicane. Anyway, it is a certainly different look to Le Mans as the 1985 World Sports Car Championship continues with round number 4 here at the Virtual World Sports Car Championship. They now are gridding up 2 by 2. It's always hard to stay like this through the 4 chicanes, but they're going to give it a go as they get up towards the front and the start of this race. It is the 1985 version of Le Mans for 2.4 hours in the World Sports Car Championship. Round number 4 set to get underway with Valtteri de Bruin having taken the pole position and getting this race underway from the front. It's not a great showing of the field keeping together, I've got to say, through the first chicane for the first time, but we are now green flag racing, and maybe the stretched out field is going to help us have a clean start early on here as the drivers get underway through turn 1, the Dunlop curve for the very first time, steaming through there. On the other side, it's Paninka who comes from the 3rd row of the grid, already to challenge for the lead maybe, on the way in towards the chicane down there at turn 3 and 4. He can't quite get down the inside of De Bruin, who does hold on to the lead, but Paninka with a lightning fast start here. On pole we go with the Lancia, and that was surprising, really. We were expecting people to be cautious on the first lap, but Eduardo Paninka immediately sets off and wants to take the lead away.
Yeah, just blasted straight through, very clean. Look at him go right down the straight, takes the lead in the Lancia. Amazing, just a beautiful path.
Wow, that Lancia looking good early on, but it's a question of pacing yourself in this race. Sometimes here is the speed pilot. It feels frighteningly fast, doesn't it, as you go down the straight. Now the slipstreaming begins, though. Is De Bruin just going to use him here? There's a little bit of a hole in the air just to save that little bit of fuel. Is Paninka now lifting off? Well, I'm not sure what the games are here, but De Bruin now does get straight back through again. The long Mulsanne straight without those chicanes means that you can get past and then repass even before the bend in the straight here, which you get to at the end in the rain. That is a pretty difficult corner, but in the dry, absolutely flat out. And then over the top here, where they do get a little bit of air time as well. There you go, up over the rise and now down in towards the Mulsanne corner. Paninka now stays second as we go back in the pack, because this is where the racing is. This is where the slipstreaming is. It's a very busy start to this race, as expected.
Yeah, and Scar Pope in that Emka making up places here down the straight. Amazing battle for second place going on right now between Paninka and Lane. Lots of fighting. This is and a little wiggle in the back end there too for, I'm not sure who that was.
Yes, well, one of the Jaguars. I'm not sure which one it was. It might have been Papadopoulos, who's down towards the back at the moment in that Jaguar. It's very close for the lead again between De Bruin and Paninka, but De Bruin holds on, and Lane is joining this front two as well. It certainly seems like there are a front few drivers who are stretching the margin over the rest of the field as they go in towards Arnott. Now through the corners, Beninka struggling a little bit more with Tom Lane right behind him. Then it's Oko Bussink, by the way, next in line, but they are all in this single file train, looking good early on lap number 1 in this race as they go down the next straight in towards Porsche curves. Link is going to back off this time round. It's a bit narrower than what this is on these days, by the way. There's grass that lines this straight before they get to the Porsche curves, which are a little bit different to the modern day, but they're very recognisable. Fast sweeping corners with the barriers even closer than they are in the modern day. This is a real challenging section of corners that's really unlike anywhere else on this circuit.
Yeah, absolutely. It's I've driven it many times myself. iRacing and that kind of thing. The classic tracks are frighteningly close. You feel those edges, and you don't see those runoff spots that you're used to on the classic tracks. So you tend to be a little more cautious, I think. Although that opening lap. It looks like Benincia's kind of like threw caution to the wind there. Beninca, pardon me.
It did rather. Yeah, well, side by side. Meanwhile, just in front of Pope. Yeah, it is. I think Magnus Dahlgren. That's Dahlgren. Sorry, getting through on Scar Pope rather, and through on the inside. Adrian Rice on the way through as well. So it's a battle really from 5th place all the way backwards. Adrian Rice is in 5th place, then it's Magnus Dahlgren, then Scar Pope, then Dan Hurlock, then Robin Moling next in line as well, all in one long line. We've already got pit stops down towards the back end. Philippe Ducati and Antonis Paparanopoulos both into pit lane. We are just checking whether that is to serve penalty or whether they've got trouble on the first lap. Going to say that it is penalty serving so far, although Ducati doesn't have one, so that's one to have a look at. Paparanopoulos does though, and that's why he's still down on pit lane. This is the battle for 5th place. Rice versus Pope, I think this is for 5th in the class rather. Rice is 5th overall, but he's in the Pro-Ams. It's Dahlgren versus Pope for the 5th place in the Pro category, but you can see there using the slipstream, Pope using the slipstream of Dahlgren, and Dan Hurlock using the slipstream of Scar Pope here, getting right up behind that red car just up in front of him here, and using that as a bit of a draft. Now he's going to move to the right hand side just before the kick. This could get a bit of a squeeze now on the way to the end of this first part of the straight. Very risky through here. Oh my word. Breathe in everybody there. That was very, very close, and it's free wide now over the top of the hill. They're going to get air, and they're hopefully not going to hit each other, otherwise there's going to be a humongous accident. In towards the corner they go, and Dan Hurlock moves through 3 positions to get up to 5th overall.
Yeah, and Adrian Rice, the cork in the bottle there. Amazing they didn't make contact, but some really clean racing over that crest. Adrian Rice now is sort of dropping behind. I expected that to happen. He was really corking it.
He's still going backwards here, Rice, although he's still the Pro-Am leader after all. So he's remains in 8th place. This is Ducati, and maybe why he stopped on the opening lap. This is into Mulsanne corner. Oh dear! Trouble on the first lap. We didn't see this in the background. We saw one Jaguar go off, but we didn't see anybody having issues such as this. That's why Philippe Ducati had to come into the pit lane first time round. Not really sure what to make of that, Shawn, whether it's a bit of miscommunication or really what went on there.
Yeah, it looks like he might have just lost it coming out of the coming out of that little small straight there. Oh, here's another one. Yeah. Peter Meyer off into the kitty litter.
That looks to me like on the formation lap, does it not?
Yeah, they're moving awfully slow for that to be a full speed lap, yeah.
How did he do that then? Oh, well.
Pulled a bit of a Lance Stroll there.
I wasn't going to say anything. Okay, it's supposed to be Canadian as well, sure. Anyway.
He lives in the UK.
We're not claiming him. We're not having any of that. No. We're not. Anyway, it sounds a bit rude, isn't it? Anyway, lap number 2, and Tom Lane still leads just ahead of Beninka, who's going to go straight through on the inside line. Still penalties to serve up here, by the way. Tom Lane is one of them, who has to serve one, but Beninka doesn't have a penalty, so he is going to lead early on here. He's just not going to have any friends to draft with a little bit later on. So Tom Lane will be in a bit later. Wouter de Bruin will be in for 115 seconds. He's going to drop way back. Elke Bussink is going to be in for 75. Dan Hurlock is the next in line who hasn't got any penalties, so it's going to be a big advantage here to Beninka in the next few moments. But as I said earlier, is that actually going to be much of an advantage to Beninka if he's out there on his own? Because as Ross was telling us beforehand, you need people to draft off and help save you fuel.
Yeah, and oftentimes on this track, you're switching positions strategically throughout the race in order to let somebody else punch a hole through the air for a while. So there is a huge disadvantage to being left out there for Eduardo Beninka all alone after Tom Lane comes in to serve that penalty.
This is Hurlock just in behind Oko Bussink, and he is not interested in going past. I like his front decoration on this car, I've got to say. And this, well, I presume it's a Jaguar that he's driving here, because it's got it written on the front. Certainly is. He's just in behind the Porsche of Bussink here, who now makes his way through the kink. Now, is Hurlock going to continue behind Bussink, or is he going to try and make the pass? Well, they're both going to be drafted past here. Goodness me, on the right-hand side, there goes Magnus Dahlgren through in the other Jaguar. He's not wanting to save fuel. It's almost like a cycling race you've ever seen on a velodrome, when everybody's sort of conserving energy a little bit sometimes, and other times they're pushing on and using energy. It's exactly right like that right now. Whether you want to use fuel right now or whether you don't want to use fuel. Dahlgren did want to that time. Hurlock didn't, and that's why Dahlgren's now gone to the front of the group. It's racing like you don't often see anywhere, really. It's entertaining, but it's unusual in some ways as well.
Yeah, that draft is super powerful around here at Le Mans, especially the Classic. You weren't spending any time under braking really under the high-speed areas, so that draft is absolutely pivotal around this track. Tom Lane taking full advantage of it, knowing that he will be coming in for a penalty here pretty soon.
Yeah, 75 seconds for him to serve a bit later on in the day. Not too long later in the day, I must admit, as we're nearing the end, of lap number 3 in this race. Through now the final sector of the race again, sector of the lap, on board with Bussink here, and Dan Hurlock. Here's the onboard vision of him chasing down Oko Bussink here through the Porsche curves. He does have hands, but we've turned them off for this camera in towards the second half of the push curves. Bussink goes wide. Oh, that's very wide, and he's Hurlock having to hit the brakes there just so he doesn't get smashed into. Oh, and there maybe was contact. Lane's into the wall in the outside. Sorry, not Tom Lane in the wall. Hurlock, is in the wall on the outside line of Corvette there at the exit of the Porsche curves. The end of lap 3 is going to bring penalties serving for almost everybody, but a penalty of a different kind there. A delay because of incident there for the for Hurlock. It doesn't look like there was contact to me, just like he went round on his own.
Yeah, a few seconds earlier he had looked like he would turned off to avoid and just got his tail on the grass, and I think that's where he started losing it.
Still not going again. Now he's finally moving. Goodness me. Oh, and he's all over the place. He's going to get back going again now. Hurlock doesn't have any penalties to serve, by the way. I mentioned that earlier, but it doesn't matter now. He is a long way further behind. He gets going in towards the final Ford chicanes.
Yeah, that's going to be a brutal recovery for him. We'll see what he can do from back there. Also, don't know what kind of damage he sustained, so yeah, it could be an interesting one for him.
Well, there's Beninka meanwhile. Eduardo Beninka now leading by 7 seconds as a result of the penalties. So you have to serve them within 3 laps as the way it goes with penalties. And that has led to Eduardo Beninka leading this race. He's ahead of Scar Pope in second. Has only just got Adrian Rice behind at the moment. Ethan Funk is now up to 4th ahead of Tony McCoffin with then Oliver Day next to the pros. Severed is leading the way in the AM class at the moment, and that is 7th overall for Guy Sever. Then Maximilian Pulsifer is in the actually side by side. We might well have side by side for the AM lead at the moment. Up the road, see that in the distance, or maybe not sure. But then Vinicius Gonçalves, it's Gonçalves and Pulsifer, who are nose to tail, and you can see them here on your screen. Then it's John Ewan rounding out the top 10 in the Pro-Ams. And unfortunately, we seem to have Matthew Sibagnoni and also Santiago Dancourt already DNF'd, according to my timing screen anyway. They seem to have already DNF'd. This, and we knew it was going to be, this race is going to be absolutely about survival. Unfortunately, a couple of drivers look like they haven't survived the first 15 minutes of this race.
Yeah,
so what happened?
Here's the Dancourt replay. He just lost it in the grass, all on his own. Oh, big contact with the wall at the end, though. Woo.
Yeah, it's just where this wall sort of juts out a little bit. If you just see it from this second camera angle here, wait for it. There you go. There's the little jut out on the wall you can see there. It's just grabbed him, in a rather awkward way, and it spun him right the way around. Looks like he might have had pretty bad damage from that one. I think this is Sibagnoni, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, a little bit. Oh, too fast! And into the wall out the final corner. Now, I said earlier that the Ford chicanes are faster on this layout than they are in real life these days. However, that was too fast by anyone's money. And so he now
way offline on that entry there.
Yeah. And unfortunately, just spun to the inside there. I mean, look, very easy. Just too much speed, really.
Yeah, carried way too much in there. Hit some kitty litter, came back on, couldn't catch his nose, and went right into the wall. That's not how you want to end your day.
Unfortunately, that has given us two retirements then to start off this race as we go back to Magnus Dahlgren and Ilko Bussing, 21st after their penalties. They've got a lot of work to do here, and this is the problem now. They're very much on their own, and of course they're going to help each other feel safe, and that's all fine, but are they going to be able to get back to where they were before? I would suggest probably not, as Bussing now moves to the other side of the road to get past Dahlgren, and they will now exchange slipstreaming duties and fuel saving duties as well as they make their way down the straight in towards Indianapolis and the end of that next straight. It's a big disadvantage for them, though. They are so far behind where they were before that this is going to be a very, very long race to try and recover. I think that the main goal for them has got to be, let's try not to get any more penalties in this round, so that we can stay out of the penalties in the stay out of the pit lane. In the next race of this series.
Yeah, it sounds like damage mitigation going on right now is probably going to be in their best interest. Maybe just kind of calm it down, bring the cars home as best you can without too much tussling. There's been a lot of kind of bumping around today.
This is the battle for second. Scarp Open, Adrian Rice, second and third currently. A pro and a pro-am driver running nose to tail. It's an Emka in second position as things stand. Mooted by some as the strongest car coming into today's race. Not by all, but by some. Further down, Peter Meyer is in the other one. We saw him spin around on the formation lap earlier on in the day. But Scott Pope is driving the only pro Emka here today, which is currently running in second position in this race. We will see whether that manufacturer advantage turns out to be much of an advantage, because right now we've got three of our different manufacturers in the top three. Lancia, then Emka, then Porsche in the top three. It's a great sign for the series, really, that we've got so many different manufacturers up on the podium places for now.
Yeah, the field is definitely spread over the manufacturers. You've got the Emka catching Beninka fairly steadily here. I've been watching the time tick down, so he is chewing into that lead, but under pressure from Adrian Rice as well. So yeah, keeping an eye on that interval to the lead. It looks like both Adrian and Scar Pope are pushing up on Beninka, and that's to be expected when you don't really have a slipstream to carry on with.
And we will we'll continue to monitor that gap, but it's 5.5 seconds for now. You'd imagine it's just a lot of fuel saving from the front of this race from Beninka, really. And the fact that he hasn't got any slipstream means that he can't quite keep the same speed as he is fuel saving at the same time. This is going to mean that a lot of the battles are going to look like this for the next hour or so of this race, you'd have to say, here at Le Mans. As long as there are no errors, it's going to be difficult to see the battles really side by side in this one. Timo Suvic might well provide them for us, though. He's running through the field again after that penalty earlier on, very long penalty. Valtteri De Bruyn is just in behind him, and just in front of them is Antonis Papadopoulos and Troy Ewan as well. These are all guys who have had penalties so far. Oh, goodness me. And De Bruyn's not waiting around to try and get some of those positions back either.
Yeah, he's dropping back quite quickly here. De Bruyn picking up. I mean, he's got to be desperate to get back up, to make up as many places as he can after those penalties. But look at him move on him. Just fantastic speed down the straight.
Maybe he's just thinking, well, I'm not going to get to the end of the race on field anyway. Might as well just push. I'm sure that's not what he's thinking. But so 2 passes on the front, or the back straight now rather. Now comes into Mulsanne corner and out of the other side. Troy Ewan in the Jaguar just in front of him is going to be dispatched off rather shortly as well, you would imagine. We saw the target of fuel a little bit earlier on. If you're going to make it to the end of this race, you've got to keep it very, very strict with that fuel target. And you just worry a little bit whenever you see a quick driver out there, and especially on the straights, you just worry that they might not be hitting their fuel target. We'll wait and see, find out a little bit later from De Bruyn, but he's not waiting around.
No, he is not. He is putting the foot down and making up a lot of time here. Looking very, very competitive in the back end. Looks like he's definitely got his foot down.
Yeah, well, we've got another DNF, unfortunately, and it looks like it happened into Indianapolis. Daniel Scott is out of the race to become our 3rd retirement here this afternoon. I would imagine we will see a replay of it very shortly. And here we go into Indianapolis, into the banking, slides, spins, and that was the end of that. Or Daniel Scott by the looks of things, and decided that that is enough for him here this afternoon. I don't know if it's just me, but doesn't the banking at Indianapolis look a lot steeper than what it is in real life these days? Maybe it's just me, but it looks very steep to me.
Yeah, I find it quite the challenge. The modern day track, but this old one it does look a little steeper. I would say though, like, I don't quite understand why he parked up the Jag there. It looked recoverable to me.
Yeah, looks like he just unfortunately gave up the ghost here this afternoon, which is a shame for Daniel Scott. David Yunt is giving us some different explanations as to why Valtteri De Bruyn's going so quickly at the moment. We'll leave those to one side for the moment. Also cursing Daniel Hurlock without even writing anything down, which is interesting as well. Hopefully we'll see Hurlock recovering from that spin we saw a few minutes ago. And indeed, he has just set the fastest lap of the race. He's got the fastest lap of the race, I should say, in this one for the moment. The last lap was about 10 seconds slower than that, but 3:26.5 one time around for Hurlock, and that's given him the best time so far. Apparently, Philippe Ducati is close to him, but I can't see him anywhere in the field. Where is he on the screen?
It's like he's just coming through the chicane there with him.
That is weird. He's definitely not where he says he is in the field, so we'll try and get to the bottom of that in the next few laps as Dan Hurlock continues to run 14th in the race. He would have been aiming for higher than that with no penalty compared to those who did have a penalty. But anyway, he's running in that position for the moment. Anyway, there's Hurlock. He's readjusted himself, I think, into the 5th position in the class. There he is in that pro division as we close in on 2 hours to go in the race. Not too many battles out there on the circuit, to be honest, because after all, there aren't really battles, to be honest. You can see it here, Gonçalves versus Pulsifer in this battle for 2nd place in the class, the AM class this is. And they're not battling really, they're just helping each other to save a bit of fuel at this stage in the race.
Yeah, it looks like he's not really, Petrowski is not really ready to make a move here. Deliberate draft, I think, from Petrowski. He's probably just really trying to conserve his fuel here.
JT Tommy is offering us his thoughts about the manufacturers again. Emka and Jag seem to have the advantage for the moment. Worth remembering, of course, that the leader's in Lancia at the moment, so it's interesting to see how that could change. The reason being, those two manufacturers, he says, hit the same fuel target, but lap quite a bit quicker without that turbo, so they can save fuel and go quickly. not counting out Herlock just for the moment. It would be an extraordinary turnaround for Dan Herlock if he can come back from here, because he's over a minute off the lead, don't forget. But interesting that JT Tommy says that he's not writing him off for the moment. I suppose we shouldn't quite write anybody off yet with 2 hours to go. And it does feel like over a minute is a very big disadvantage to try and overturn.
Yeah, we definitely shouldn't be writing off Mr. Scar Pope out front here, chasing down Beninka. He's knocked that gap down to just about 4 seconds, so he's chewing into that. Adrian Rice is slowly falling back a little bit from that hack, so we'll see how things are going out front. But Scar Pope just has his foot down right now. Amazing pace.
As there is the gap between first and second, 2.5 seconds in the gap for the lead of the race. David said,
yeah, he's got the bit between his teeth, that's for sure.
Yeah. We'll keep an eye on that for the lead, because that is probably going to come down again in the next few moments. 2 hours to go as we just cross now. I haven't seen very much of George Angelidis so far today, but there you go. He's running in 12th. He's driving on his own, which why we haven't seen him yet. He's got 2.5 seconds to Jerry Chen up in front. He's got Adam Gray right behind, but there is, well, it says he is. Where is Adam Gray? Oh, there we go. That's more than 2/10, I would say. But anyway, that is where George Angelidis is in the field at the moment. Just looking to get off to a clean start, and if you can do that, then I think you've got off to this race in a good way, really, with nearly half an hour gone here in this one. We've seen a good clean start from most of the drivers here, which is a positive way to begin, and only 3 retirements so far as well.
Yeah, a disappointing departure, according to Downer. I'm thinking David Gent in chat there indicating it might be a disappointing departure. I would agree. Seemed like too early to give up for me.
Yeah, well, thankfully we've had 27 continue in this race so far, which is a positive thing for us. We'll continue to follow them along as they race here in the 2.4 hours of Le Mans this afternoon. There is a couple of replays to have a look at, so let's do that now in the next couple of moments. Starting with Robin Moling, I think this is, in towards Indianapolis. Too late on the brakes, slides, and it's a trip into the gravel for Moling. Only one position lost in the end, and this is Ross Smith, I think, in the race next to Tetrus. Spinning around, turn-in spin. And a pretty big bit of contact as well. Ouch. That's going to be some damage, you would have thought. We'll have a look. Oh, dear, it is. Oh, no. That rear end has got some suspension damage, I think, now.
Yeah, looks like he tried to just kind of give it the beans coming out of the kitty litter and lost it again and hit the wall. So, major damage to the rear end of that car.
And I always find that rear suspension damage is a lot more difficult to deal with than the front suspension damage is. Let's see if Ross Smith can get back to pit lane and repair that car in the next few moments, but he's already dropped down to nearly last in the field. He is the Pro-Am Championship leader, don't forget, and so that is not ideal for his championship lead. Fortunately for him, his championship rivals are not up towards the front. Adrian Rice is quite a long way back coming into this one, 20 points further behind, so he might get away with it. As the lead gap, meanwhile, comes down to just 1 second now as they make their way over the line at the end of another lap. 1 hour 57 to go. Scar Pope getting closer as this race continues. Beninka will be certainly looking over his shoulder at the moment.
And he should be. That Emka is just an absolute rocket down that back straight. Adrian Rice, I don't think he'd be complaining too much about the points pickup today.
Through turn 3 and 4. And Beninka is under a little bit of pressure now through Tetrus. That's a slight miss of the apex there from Pope, but should be okay. Now the slipstream will start to be picked up as well, though. This is going to start to feel very, very different out front, it seems now. Are we going to see a race in which the two leaders are helping each other to draft again and helping each other out front? Or are we going to see a race in which Pope gets past and goes up the road? I think that's going to be very, interesting, very telling for the remainder of this race to see which of those two things happens here.
Yeah, at this point, it's going to be really down to Scar to dictate what he wants to do with this. He has the pace, and he's holding pretty steady behind right now. So, if it were me, I'd just hold station and let the fuel come to me.
I was going to say, it does seem like that's the better idea at the moment, doesn't it? That staying behind, it might not be the more exciting thing for us to watch here in the broadcast booth, but it does seem like the more sensible thing to just stay behind and save fuel at the moment when you consider the amount of saving we've been speaking about here today, but also the amount of time remaining in this race. Less of that going on back here. Maximilian Petrovsky is just in behind Vinicius Gonçalves, and they're both matching at the moment, 1.5 seconds. This is getting close for the AM lead as well.
Yeah, neck and neck, these two. Wonder if we'll see a pass here. Seems quite content to just kind of hang into that draft, Trafke. I can't say as I blame him. It's a long race. We're still early days.
It just feels like he's been following since the very beginning. We're hearing that he actually has. Every time we've looked back at these two, they've been like this. And Petrovsky has shown no interest so far of getting past. The thing that confuses me in these kind of battles, though, I get it for Petrovsky that he would stay behind this long and save the fuel. I absolutely get. Oh dear, is his windscreen not? Is windscreen not see-through? Oh no! Oh,
It looks like he's driving through a snowstorm.
Yeah. I mean, hopefully that's not what he sees in the cockpit, otherwise he's going to be in real trouble, but I'm guessing he doesn't. Well, I guess that camera's not going to be used in that case for Petrovsky's car. Anyway, but Vinicius Gonçalves, I'm sure, can see a little bit better, but he's in the middle here of a group of three. It's very close, 1, 2 and 3. Sorry, I'll just continue before I got completely distracted by that. Petrovsky, I totally get it, saving the fuel in this situation, but if you can salvage here and you see someone drafting off of you, saving fuel off of you for the first part of this race, I can't understand why Vinicius Gonçalves would look in his mirror for half an hour and think, yeah, that's fine to continue on behind me for half an hour, because surely that Petrovsky's just going to use that to overtake him later.
Yeah, exactly. He'll not only will he use that draft to overtake later, but he'll be consistently saving fuel for a late push. So this is really smart from Trafke. If I were in Goncalves' position, I'd try and get rid of that draft as quickly as possible. Looks like he's pulling up pretty close to getting his own draft here really soon. So yeah, interesting.
Very interesting to watch. Here they come. There we go. Gonçalves is going to. Oh no! Oh, I thought Gonçalves was being let through there by Rice. Not Rice. Sorry, Sivert, who's leading this race in AM. We're watching here, but no, not in towards the fourth chicane. Maybe a little bit later on. Well, this is by far the closest leading battle, certainly between three drivers. And thankfully, Gonçalves it is possible to see out of his windscreen. So we'll go on board with him as we go through turn number 1. It's not a chicane as we know in the modern day, but a pretty difficult right-hander instead. And now over the top, down the other side. A lot of lift and coast before turn 3 and 4. And Wemi Gonçalves is using this as his chance to save a bit of fuel, but we'll see whether Siver actually allows that here in this battle for the lead in the AM class.
Yeah, there's a definite pace advantage in the car behind. So if I were him, I wouldn't tolerate that nonsense very long. I'd just let him.
Well, I feel like the problem's going to come when you try to let him through and he doesn't go through. Then what happens? Do they just stop? If neither of them want to lead, then it does feel like there's going to be a bit of a stall between the three as they now make their way down the long Mulsanne straight. There's the first chicane, which actually is there in this layout for some reason, but not used. There's the slipstream for Gonçalves. He's going to get a lot closer, but he's not going to go past. And here comes the fuel saving game. So now Gonçalves is lifting as well. Oh.
Yeah, I think we're going to see this for quite a bit of this middle stint of the race. A lot of people are going to want to try getting their deltas down, saving fuel, keeping in a slipstream. These are all sort of... Oh.
Meanwhile, we've got a DNF for Stephen Miller, who is in 8th place in the AM standings coming into today. Let's see what happened to him in towards the Porsche curves. Oh, turning, oversteer, slide backwards into the wall, and there's the day done. That will be rear right damage, and some suspension now is there for Stephen Miller to repair. Only he's not going to have that repaired. It's going to be out of the race, or maybe not. I can still see him in the race actually.
Yeah, it looks like he recovered that car, got back on track. Just took him a little while to get out of the kitty litter, but
Adam Gray is out though. So Miller did have a problem, but got back going. Adam Gray didn't. Oh, that's too fast. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Goodness me. That was a big accident. That's coming to a dead stop from well over 200 miles an hour there at the Mulsanne corner. And that's why Adam Gray's out there. I'm not surprised he couldn't get that one back. This is going to be pretty brutal. He's turning a slightly narrow line there. It's always difficult braking and turning at the same time. And Gray has had a huge impact there.
oh yeah, the Cookie Monster just ate the barrier. Jeez.
That was very, very hard hitting on the wall as the rain is starting to fall here at Le Mans. We questioned whether it would arrive. It was falling in the practice session, but drying through the practice, we said that there was not going to be any pit stops in this race. Well, for the moment, that is true, but they might well have to come in now to change their tyre compound here as the rain starts to fall on the circuit.
Yeah, rain changes everything. This whole race could turn around here depending on what they do with this pit stop, how wet it's going to get, how drivable it still might be in these slicks. I guess we'll see who blinks first.
Yeah, sorry to cut you off. Don't you feel like this is almost more difficult than actually, full rain when you're on wet tyres already? When it's starting to rain like this, it's quite slick, but it's also too dry to put the wets on just for the moment. I almost feel like this is a harder set of conditions to drive in. Look at the way they're squirming under power as well.
Yeah, and the torque in these cars is crazy. So when you get them on the wet, they can be very, very tricky. Just to keep the rear end under control. I imagine we're gonna see some pit stops here pretty soon. Rain is fluttering between 15 and 30%. So, I mean, this could really go either way at this point.
The track wetness still only at 5 though, so I think these two might carry on for one more, but it just depends how much he's struggling and how much you just want to put the wets on right now. That's quite wide for Beninka. He's just about going to stay on the road, only just though, through the Porsche curves, now through the final corner. Oh, that's actually sliding again. Oh my word, they might well come in as soon as the rain starts to fall here, because these cars are almost impossible now to drive in these wet weather conditions on the dry tyres. Are we going to see pit stops already? No, we're going to carry on. This is going to be a really difficult and slippery lap for Eduardo Beninka and Scott Pope out front.
Yeah, he's slithering around like a snake already. Big snap of oversteer from that Emka. Scar Pope back online though and chasing him down.
So John Ewan is a DNF in this race. He's dropped to the back end. That might well be because of an incident. This is George Angelidis in towards Mulsanne corner. That's just through the middle of the corner. That's a wet spin if ever I've seen one. Back onto the circuit again. Oh. Couldn't get back going again with the power on. This is Petrovsky into Indianapolis. Oh my word! You can see just in behind Petrovsky actually Gonsalves very near following him. I think Sivert has also been off, but that to come later. This is this Angelidis again?
Oh, big contact with the wall there.
Right? So I think. I'm not sure. This is Tony McCoffin, who's now actually been into the pit lane for wet tyres and couldn't control the car. Oh, and did very well to keep that out of the wall on that occasion. Everybody seemingly is off the road here in this in these conditions right now. That's Adrian Rice, the leader, and the Pram's now going off the road down there at turn number 3. This is Tom Lane in the Porsche curve, sliding. Almost getting, he's going to hit the wall very hard as well. That's really hard contact with the Tom Lane with the wall. That is going to put him in pit lane for a little while. This is Adrian Rice, is it?
Adrian Rice.
He's stuck.
Looks like he's beached himself. Oh, no, here he goes again, back on track.
How did he get stuck? Is the question.
And he's back in the kitty litter again. Big snap, yeah. Tries to turn the car around on the curb and just hits the wall again. Struggling so difficult in these conditions to get those cars back on track.
And so that is this is the secondary one. This is George Andalidis again. Not that we can see who it is at this stage. It is starting to get very dark as well. There's the spin from him. He hasn't hit anything though over the course of the last 2 spins. He's got away with it. Haven't seen very much of Stacey Scott so far actually this afternoon, but unfortunately this is going to be an incident. But Scott's into the wall, backwards into the wall, and that is going to be hopefully not a retirement, although it may have been. It is a DNF, unfortunately, for Stacey Scott. So we now have 6 down in this race. We are many down pit lane. The front 4 all carried on. So Eduardo Beninca, Scott Pope, Edwin Rice, and even Maximilian Petrovsky, who we saw have issues, still carried on the dry tyres despite these conditions where it is still raining and it looks pretty bad out there. This is in towards Arnage where there's traffic here as well. This is not 1, 2 and 3. This is Beninca versus Pope with a lap car as well in these wet weather conditions to start this period of rain.
Yeah, in the dark, in the wet, everything is getting slimy, slippery, greasy. You can still see Beninca out front, that yellow Lancia just slithering all over the place. Timon Subic right behind here.
Just a lap down. Civic's not been... Oh, he has been in for wet tyres, sorry. That's why. So, according to my numbers now, it's not raining at all now. So, we'll need to go on board here and try and figure out if it's not raining anymore. That was a very short rain shower that all of a sudden, well, the wet tyre runners are still benefiting from because it is still wet, but these guys who've stayed out front, I think have made a blinding call here because they actually don't need to pit for wet tyres at all.
No, huge strategy call paying off in the wet here, as long as the rain does not come back. If the track begins to dry out, we're in great shape, so keep an eye on that weather radar. Anything can happen around the mall.
Is Timon Subic going to try and pass them here, despite being a lap down or not? I also feel like this is probably the worst time in the race to actually have the rainfall as well, because we've only just gotten into nighttime driving as well. We're 40 minutes into this race. Don't ask me what that means in terms of how many hours we've done time lapse, because it's 40 minutes times 10. I don't know what that is. Anyway, it's into the darkness anyway for the first time, and so I feel like you're getting used to 2 things here, Shawn, at the same time, which are both very difficult. The darkness conditions and also the wet weather conditions as well in this race. This is a lot earlier, as you can see in the daytime. This is why John Ewan is out the race, and that is a huge crash.
Tire went over the wall and everything. You gotta love to see it, but you gotta hate to see it.
Yeah, that's why he couldn't get it back again. Had no rear left tyre, I don't think. So that's why he is one of our 6 retirements, unfortunately, from this race after 40 minutes here at Le Mans. There's so many yellow flags and so many incidents to well, we're not going to see them all, obviously, otherwise we'll be there all day, but there's been so many drivers off the circuit. Just briefly, we'll show you the main crashes, obviously, when they do arise, but for the most part, it's just been small trips through the gravel for almost all of the drivers at some point in this wet weather period. As we follow the leaders again, there's Garpo right in behind Beninca, but still not aiming to pass.
No, it looks like he's still holding station down that straightaway. It's not like he hasn't given him plenty of opportunities to pass either. It looks like Beninca's managed to move himself over out of slipstream a couple of times, and Scar not taking the bait.
Scott Pope is off, straight on. Is he going to hit the wall here? Is that car going to hit the wall? Oh, it looks like it is.
Yes.
He's burst into the wall for the Emka. That's been a great drive so far today from Scott Pope, but the first mistake of the day results in the Emka going nose first into the barrier down at Mulsanne corner. Let's have another look at it. Looked like it almost Pope was just caught off guard by Beninca braking too early. Well, not too early, but just earlier than Pope thought. And that meant gravel, that meant the wet outside line, the white line as well, which will still be slippery. And Pope went straight on, face first into the wall.
Yeah, he was not expecting that early braking. Here we go again. Back on track is Scar Pope heading back down the track to chase down Beninca one more time. He did not see the slowdown from Beninca. He'd been trying to let him pass for a while now, and I suspected that was one of those attempts. Scar didn't catch it in time.
Well, I've seen it started raining again, by the way. It's very light, very, very light, but it is raining again out on the circuit. So, what do you even do in these conditions? I don't know if you've ever experienced conditions like these, Shawn, in a race, but the rain's so light that it's not really making the track very wet at all. But it's coming back again. It's on and off throughout the day. It's very difficult to read.
Yeah, and going offline anywhere is enough for you to slip on the paint, on the grass, anything. So at this point, you want to keep it between the lines. You want to keep it nice and clean. Watch your braking zones, especially going through the S's. So right now it's just they really have to mitigate this rain as best as they can through this night cycle.
This is exactly why we love racing at Le Mans and endurance racing as well. There's so many big challenges to take on over the course of one of these rounds in one of these longer races, and we're seeing it writ large for us on the screen right now. This is Herlock, who I think came in for wet, if I'm not mistaken, just in front of Wouter de Bruin. Then Jerry Chen next in line, just in behind. So this is a three-car battle, and a legitimate one as well. But I do feel a little bit sorry for those drivers who came in for those wet weather tyres, because I don't feel like that's been the right call so far. However, I've just seen the rain intensity increase and the track wetness now starting to increase. So we were complimenting the drivers for staying out on the dries. Is that now going to start to come back to bite them again if this rain starts to increase?
Yeah, hard to tell at this point. I'd say keep an eye on Ethan Funk in that Porsche 956 car. He's the leading wet runners right now. So depending on his pace, I would say Reigns would have been a gamble, but yeah, you were gambling either way. I think maybe a good one if we get more rain here, and intensifying even as we go.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's getting very, very exciting as we continue on with this one. The track getting even wetter as well. As you can see on board from this shot here, this is intensifying, this rain here in this race. Some news on that Stacey Scott's unfortunate retirement here in this race just a couple of moments ago. She couldn't change tyres. I'm presuming that means compound, change tyre compound, and so needed to reset to get them to start to work, if you see what I mean. Needs to reset that car so that the compounds could be changed. So hopefully Scott's is back in the race, and it does look like he is. So we're down to 5 retirements after 6. We've got a car back out onto the circuit again. To be honest, I thought once you were DNF that was it in RF2, but clearly I was wrong. Stacey Scott's is back out, although actually 3 laps down, unfortunately, in this race. At the very least, still going. There is the onboard vision there. It's so difficult to know which tyre's the right one at the moment. It's still in that middle ground, really, between two wet for the slicks and 2 dry for the wets. It's very, very hard to make that call, as Tom Lane and Elko Bussing are having to make that call right now. Tom Lane has been the latest driver to go onto wets, and Bussing is doing the same now too.
Yeah, it looks like down the grid everybody's starting to drop in for wets. The leaders out front still rolling, but everybody else is coming on in, it looks like. Oh, we have a couple passes on the lane here where they're not.
Robin Moling, Wouter de Bruin's in. Not sure why they're going so slowly in the pit lane. I don't think there's a pit limit, is there? Is a speed limit in the pit lane? Saw them roaring
there
into...
shouldn't be in classics, no.
Yeah. Not sure when they were introduced, actually, but not in 1985 anyway. As we go back to Eduardo Beninca, just in front, I think, of Subic still, isn't it? In the race, 1 lap down. He's the only other driver 1 lap down, so I'm going to say that it is. And he's just pulling off to the side of the road, because Scar Pope is coming up very quickly indeed, flashing the lights as a bit of a warning or a thank you. And look at the spray now. This is getting more and more difficult for the dry tyre runners, but Beninca and Pope are doing very well.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to start chucking here in the next few minutes as well. So I am not sure how long they can make those race tires work without switching to the wets. Pace is just dropping.
Beninca's off!
And he's
Beninca's
off
off and in the wall, is he? Out! Oh, through Porsche curves. He might have kept that out the wall, but he has gone off the road, and surely it's time for wet tyres now for these drivers. Scott Pope doing a fantastic job in these wet weather conditions right now. They're leading, by the way, by 3/4 of a minute over the rest of the field. McCoffin is the first in line on those wet tyres. Made a really great call, but Pope has decided now is the time, and Beninca's coming in as well. Probably the right call.
Yeah, absolutely. The rain's starting to get quite heavy now. seeing everybody pulling off for the wet weather tires. Maximilian Petrovsky is still managing to bomb around out there in those race tires.
He is. He's still on dries. Here's Petrovsky. He's still behind these two, though, who are on wets, and they are closing in quickly. As you can see, Pope and Beninka are both in the pit lane right now, changing tyres. Careful on that curve, Ethan Funk there. It's going to be very slippery through the Porsche curves now, as they can free. Just see they've got so much more grip here on those wet tyres, as that is... who is that? Is that Scott's again, who spun at the Porsche curves? I'm not sure. Only saying that because they didn't gain any places, and Scott's is the only one a lap down. And yeah, it is, I think. Hopefully, it just got the wets on now, but it takes a bit of time to get used to, and that might be some damage actually to repair, unfortunately, for Stacey Scott's already 3 laps down. Thankfully, laid to rest on the outside of that corner. And end up in
it's
the
never good when you're using your car as a spinning top off the wall. That was a brutal hit. Hopefully, we can get him back in there and see what's going on.
So Scott Pope is still leading ahead of Beninka. 3 seconds the gap there. McCoffman is only 4 seconds behind Beninka right now, by the way. But based on what we've seen so far from that MCA of Scott Pope, I feel like this is going to be a pretty good drive and a good advantage by the end of this stint for Scott Pope, because look at that, 4 seconds already, and to us that MCA does look quicker, whether it's in the wet weather conditions or the dry.
Yeah, I had a feeling Beninka would once we got to the later stages of this race, especially after the pit stop here, Scar Pope's just going to have an immense amount of pace. We've seen him so clean around this lap. Other than the one slip up there, looking good out in the lead for sure.
Fantastic lead so far. One good point being made, and we didn't get a chance to chat about it earlier on. I think it was either JT Tammy or David Young. I can't remember who, but I think it might be JT. Said that for those struggling to hit their fuel number, this rain has come as a blessed relief, because you use a lot less fuel in the rain. And so those concerns that we were talking about, that drafting we were talking about so much of in the first part of the race, some of that's going to start to go away a little bit now as the wet weather conditions force drivers to use less fuel.
Yeah, absolutely. Fuel will become considerably less of a concern now as the laps tick away under these rainy conditions. As you can see, a lot of squirreling going on there from Beninka. Having a really hard time keeping that Lancia in a straight line today, isn't he?
Yeah, certainly in these conditions now, it's becoming a real struggle. The rain is easing again, by the way, compared to what it was a few moments ago. It's never got that heavy, but it is easing again. We'll see whether we get a drying period in this race, as McCoffman and Funk now battle for third position as well. This is third position overall. McCoffman is the Pro-Am leader, don't forget, and over 30 seconds in front of Adrian Rice. That shows you how much things can change if you make the right call on tyres, and McCoffman certainly did. You can not only go from not leading to over 30 seconds in the lead, and that's what's happened to Tony McCoffman.
Yeah, we still have an hour and 32 to go in this race, and anything can happen, especially with these mixed rain conditions. Possible we see another big pit stop here for dries when the rain goes away. Hopefully, that should spice things up.
We'll see whether we do get dry running again in this race, or whether it is going to be rain from now until the finish. As I mentioned, this is going to be the whole nighttime period in the wet weather conditions. It's going to be very, very miserable for some as well over the course of the darkness period here in this race, as they now work their way through the Porsche curves here to Funk and McCoffman in this battle for third position in the race. Just over an hour and a half to go, not even an hour through this race, and so much drama so far, and I'd imagine so much drama still to come here in this battle, and this race rather. Because
a lot of early retirements due to this this mixed condition rain. We had a fair few go off in the dry earlier. Dancourt off in the wet, so what do we got? 5 DNFs currently in this race. I suspect many more to go if we keep this rain condition up.
the timing screen, by the way, showing Philippe Ducati still on dry tyres. Can that be possibly true at this stage? It feels like that can't be true anymore for him, to be honest. But we'll try and figure that out. It's not very easy to do that, but Ducati, the only driver so far showing that he might still be on tyres. I'm going to presume not, as the rain just increases in intensity again. We'll see whether this looks like a yes, that does look to me like a driver on dry tyres, to be honest, struggling and aquaplaning all over the place.
Oh, yeah. And almost coming back in on the track, taking out somebody else there.
Here's Stacey Scott's through Mulsanne corner. A little bit deep on the brakes. A short trip through the gravel, but certainly not as bad as some of the other incidents we've seen so far today. This is through the Porsche curves. Oh, straight on.
Oh, he's straight on.
Oh no, gravel saved him. So that's good news for him. This is Philippe Ducati into Mulsanne. Yeah, he is on dry tyres and he is very much struggling because of it. It's a gamble, to be fair, and I always appreciate someone who goes for an alternate strategy and a bit of a gamble like that. However, it is very difficult to make it work, especially in conditions as wet as this. It's super hard to stay out there on dry tyres.
Yeah, and you spend more time jumping back and forth into the pits, wasting time on a missed strategy, trying to recoup to another tire that'll get you back into the race. But yeah, bad luck there, bad strategy call on those tires. Very, very hard to call while you're in the race, though. As a driver, you want to keep pushing and keep going when you still can. So I understand that.
Still on board with the battle for third place. It's Ethan Funk behind Tony McCoffin, who's leading the Pro-Am class in the second division of our competition. That is very sideways on the way in from Funk. And they are just in behind some lap cars as well here. Now we've got a few drivers one lap down, and there's a stack up. Oh my word! Funk had to miss them there on the way towards Arnage, as there was an almighty stack up going into that braking zone there. That was Stephen Miller just up in front of them. Confident went straight into the back of him, and Ethan Funk had to avoid them both there. That was really close into the Arnage corner.
Yeah, that was a little sketchy. He just about lost it there too. This is the problem with the concertina effect under the wet when you're, following back markers and trying to keep a slipstream. It can be very treacherous, as we just about found out.
Again, here's the problem. Flashing of the light from a confident. Miller taking it very slowly. And that's because after last lap through this section. Oh, and round the outside goes Funk. That's a very good move for third place overall. Going round the outside of both through the Porsche curves. Bravery going, maybe too much. He's pushed too hard now, and now he's off the road. Out of the Porsche curves, he goes into the grass, and McCoffin gets his place back all over again in a few moments of madness for these three.
Yeah, that was just insane. I'm not sure where we should start with that one. Had a quick pass on the inside going into those curves, and just about lost it again coming down the main straight. Yeah, great moving in the background there. Really aggressive for McGoffin.
That was in YouTube chat, just asking Miller to let them go. I think he was so focused on trying to stay on the road that didn't immediately think to get out the way of those two. And either way, not ideal for anybody through the Porsche curves, because it is such a difficult section of corners anyway when you're going through those parts. The track wetness, by the way, continues to increase here as the rain is not that heavy, but it is increasing the track wetness to a pretty big degree right now. And we're almost getting to the stage of the race already now. Maybe it's a bit too early to say it's for an hour and a half, but we're not too far away from the stage of the race, I believe, where even if the rain stops, we might not see dry tyres again before the finish, because the track has actually got so wet now.
Yeah, this is reminding me of what was going on in early practice. Not so much a ton of downpour, but because it was so constant, it pooled up quite badly. These drivers are going to have to deal with this now, I think, for the remainder of the race and try and manage these conditions.
Some fuel saving, McCoffin and Ethan Funk. saw the way that front caught right up to the back of the 339, and now he's just staying in behind to save that fuel. Mentioned that the fuel will be less of a factor here because of the rain, but it will still be a thing to think about here if you're going to make it to the end of the race or not, because you can't refuel at any time in this series, don't forget. Meanwhile, we have got another DNF. Unfortunately, it's for Adrian Rice, who has led the Pro-Am class for a long time. He's not leading it anymore because Tony McCoffin is out front, but Adrian Rice has gone out the race, and speaking of which, Ethan Funk has now spun around through Mulsanne corner, and this is going to be a long 3-point turn for him to get back going again there. It's just a classic spinning up of the wheels on power there that sent him right the way around out of that Mulsanne corner.
Oh my God, that looked like Austin Powers at play.
This is how it happened again.
Yeah, just a little too much gas coming out of that corner off the apex and lost it. Now he's got to wait. Oh, it's painful to watch. It's painful to watch. Should have got her back on, and probably one turn earlier he could have got it back out there. But yeah, pulling the Austin Powers back online.
If we can get a view on Rice's incident. This is Ross Smith down in towards Mulsanne corner. That was very deep on the brakes from him and off the road down there through the gravel. This is Adrian Rice through Tete Rouge. That might be why he's out the race and wasn't able to get it back. Turning, oh, slide on turning. A smack into the wall, very hard as well. He's buried in that barrier, and that's how he ended this race.
Yeah, big snap of oversteer before he hit that curbing, and he just flew into the wall. Here's Scar Pope. Oh, just, man, these guys love sliding off into the kitty litter on this corner.
This is Scott's into pit lane, by the way. This is just an entry to the pits. Just a bit wide, but that's fine. A little bit of grass pitting. This is Stephen Miller in towards Indianapolis, and straight on into the gravel. We're going to see a lot of those in the next few moments, I would argue, in these wet weather conditions. Throw a slide and a little bit of contact with the wall in the end, but nice pivot there. Third place in the AM class. This is hello. What's going? Oh, that's indecision. Ducati finally deciding that wet tyres might be the best idea, and I can't blame him either. But he's finally decided that, so he's changing his tyres now as this wet weather condition continues. So after that spin for Scar Pope, Beninka's back in the lead again in this topsy-turvy race.
Yeah, very back and forth between these two. A bit of a chess match today between Scar Pope and Beninka, who can keep the lead here. But it looks like Scar Pope's going to try push himself forward again.
Perhaps, or is it going to be fuel saving in the Mulsanne straight? We'll find out here very shortly. Well, Pope can't actually get very close to Beninka for the moment, so that is going to be a nice small lead for Beninka just in these next few moments. I mean, it's going to remain close between these two for the remainder, you would imagine that, but we're only just over an hour through this race right now, and there's still, it feels, a very, very long way to go in this one, and Pope and Beninka seem to be in the sort of start, maybe, of a race-long battle right the way to the very end. This could go on for some time here.
Yeah, that Lancia out front of Beninka is looking a lot smoother, a lot cleaner on the under the brakes now in the second half of this stint with these wet tires. Looking a little more stable. Back end's not swishing around like it was under the dries.
Look at that, really close out of Arnage for Pope and Beninka. Sorry, no Arnage, that's Mulsanne corner, obviously. And then on to the power before Indianapolis coming up next. And you can see these even slight corners starting to become a little bit more difficult now as the wet weather really starts to take hold. It is very, very wet out there on the circuit now. As they get on the brakes for Indianapolis, it is just about survival. We spoke about focus and the prospect of rain at the start of this day, but this is now all about survival really between these two. If, for example, if Pope had survived the last lap, then Pope would be in the lead ahead of Beninka by some distance. It's toing and froing though between 1 and 2, Beninka and Pope, and This is going to be whoever makes the least mistakes, you would imagine, winning out between the two of them.
Yeah, at this point, I don't know who's kicking themselves worse, but they are neck and neck throughout this race. Even mistakes-wise, they're coming off mistakes rather quickly and recovering. So I imagine this will go down to the wire between Beninka and Pope, and I hope it does. It's a very exciting out front race.
Yeah, I hope so. We'll jump back further down the pack in the meantime to Tom Lane here, who is knocking on the door of Ethan Funk. Don't forget, Funk had those problems in the last couple of laps to now dropping 35 seconds off of Tony McGovern. And so Tom Lane has been able to step into that and try and get onto the podium in the pro class. That's Stacey Scott still in front of them, getting out the way. And now Lane can really try and focus on coming through here. Funk seems to be struggling to get back up to speed again to where he was before. And Tom Lane's going to roar straight past here. It shows you about confidence and the importance of it, because Ethan Funk doesn't have very much of it right now.
No, and coming into this corner, boy, is that a tight one. We're looking at just not even tenths between them going through that section. Amazing control in the dark.
It's so difficult, isn't it, in these conditions? On our 20 still to go. I'm not sure how close we are to the sun rising again, by the way. Don't forget, these races start in sim quite late in the afternoon these days in Le Mans, so it doesn't take very long for the track to go dark. It will progress 10 times quicker than real life, though. Don't forget the time scale, and so we will be back in the light for the last part of the race, just as we were at Daytona as well earlier on in the season, as Lane makes his way out the final corner now. Ethan Funk nowhere to be seen because he's into the pit lane, which is an interesting call. He can't be going on dry, surely not.
He might be. The rain has slowed down significantly now. I'm not seeing a lot around track, but we are still at a high wetness level. It would be a huge risk to go on dries right now.
That would be pretty unbelievable if dry tyres are coming out, as Beninka and Pope continue to run nose to tail and continue to help each other fuel save here, particularly helping Pope in the fuel saving stakes through this particular moment, through the right-hander, the kink at the end of the straight, nearly going wide through onto the whole shoulder there as they now go over the rise. And down on the brakes now for Mulsanne corner. Again, Pope just, I think, noticeably backing off before these braking zones so that Beninka isn't hit up the rear by Pope here. And indeed, Pope doesn't have to go straight on to avoid him at any point as well, because we've seen that a couple of times so far here today with an hour 18 to go, which is still close between these two. Remarkable stuff.
Yeah, Beninka is kind of bottlenecking Mulsanne every time he goes in there, which is backing Scar Pope up into I wouldn't say an uncontrollable position, but he's losing a little more of the car under braking than Beninka is. So his exit's actually quite a bit cleaner coming out of Mulsanne down into Corpo de Golf. I think he's got a good strategy here as far as keeping Scar behind him.
Further behind, Ethan Funk has not gone on to dries as expected. Instead, has come back out on the wet weather tyres. Oh, that's slow. We have got a couple of replays going up though for some DNFs. So Keir Sivert is the next to have retired, sliding and spinning out of Tete Rouge, and that is the end of that for Keir Sivert by the looks of things.
Yeah, a big slap against the wall at the end of that spin there. I don't think he's coming back out anytime soon.
It didn't look like terrible contact, but well, although you can't see the barrier, no one's there. It's just a tree in the way. But that's fine. We know that he's hit the wall, and that is the end of that. Yeah, it's just a classic wet weather kind of thing, really. We've seen so much clean racing in the dry weather conditions, but it's the wet that's causing a lot of this. This is Tony McGovern, who is the leader, and the Pro-Am's going off the road at the Porsche curves there.
Yeah, I mean, the drivers just seem to be putting in their own corner there today.
There's the two leaders. Beninka and Scar Pope still continuing out front in this race. So
yeah, Scar Pope managing to hold within that that draft, that 1 point to 2 second mark. Still fuel saving, it seems, but I'm not sure why at this point. I think they got plenty of fuel for a push at the end.
Yeah, we will see whether they do. But in the meantime, let's have a look at a run through of each of the top 5 in each class, since we're just about halfway in the 2.4 hours of Le Mans in the Virtual World Sports Car Championship 1985. It is Eduardo Benenka who's leading the race and has done for most of it, although Scarpoke putting him under a lot of pressure throughout the day. Tom Lane is 3/4 of a minute back, with Dan Hurlock 1 minute 15 back, and Oko Bussink 1 minute 23 back. It is really a 2-horse race at the front of the Pro class. In Pro-Am, it's a 1-horse race, you've got to say, really. Over 2 minutes of an advantage for Tony McCubbin in 3rd place overall, with Antonius Papadopoulos, the next in line, down in 14th. Then it's Troy Ewan, who's in 3rd place, with Ross Smith in 4th, and Adrian Rice is retired in 5th position rather, in the Prime class, John Ewan as well. We'll go through the championship implications of that a little bit later. In the AM standings, Maximilian Petrovsky is leading the way in the AM class, ahead of Jerry Chen. 3rd place is George Angelides, ahead of Peter Meyer, with Vinicius Gonçalves rounding out the 5th place in the AM class in the top 20 overall as well. So much that has changed throughout the race so far. So much has gone on over the course of the first half of this race. When we get to 1 hour and 12, we will be at halfway, by the way. But yeah, so much having gone on so far, so much still to happen. This is Petrovsky, just as we were saying, he was leading the AM class, going for a big spin. Oh, and he does just tap the wall. He'd probably get away with that.
Is Dan Hurlock going down in through... Oh my. Playing in the kitty litter. Look at him go. And Kitty's a big boot back on the track. They're having fun out there in the rain today.
Oh, that's quite wide for Benenka, but that's all fine. Pope now in the lead after making a pass, and very nearly sliding and giving it away immediately here, as these two continue to lap at the front of this race. Some very light rain conditions now, but it is still making the circuit very, very wet indeed, certainly wet enough for the wet tyres to be used. It does seem, though, that if Pope can just even out some of these mistakes and stop making some of these mistakes, and Benenka's not going to have much of a chance of keeping up with that Emka out front.
Yeah, it looks like he's already lost the lead here to him, pulling away 1.46 up the road already. I think Scar Pope may have had enough of Benenka. We'll see how this goes.
Maybe now finally leaving Benenka in the background. As far as the championship goes, Benenka is only 3 points behind Dan Hurlock, so they're going to be ultra close at the end of today. JT Tami is not here, as we know, neither is Becky Healy-Clark, and so they're going to drop back. In fact, most of the other contenders who are quite close to those top 2 in the championship, Pro Championship, aren't here. So Benenka starting the day 3 points behind Dan Hurlock, 2 positions in front of him right now. They might even be tied, actually, at the end of this race. I'll have to check that. Maybe it will just go the way of Benenka with a 2nd and a 4th place finish, but what a championship we're going to have this season. It's going to be very, very close between these top names, and Benenka no different. Just needs to stay on the road here, really, even if he doesn't have the speed to stay with Scar Pope. At the very least, ensure you don't fall off the road and lose the chance to gain those points on Dan Hurlock.
Yeah, and Dan Hurlock, with the fastest lap of the race, seems to be pushing as well, so we'll see if he can make up some places before the end of this race. Still plenty to go for Dan.
In the Pro-Am class, Ross Smith is the championship leader, but is not in the lead of this race. He's actually the last running car. Paparanopoulos is going to gain points, although he's just lost a position to Troy Ewan, as I'm saying that, as Paparanopoulos in the battle for 2nd in the Pro-Am class. John Ewan is next, but he's out the race, so again it's becoming a 2-horse race there, but Paparanopoulos is gaining some points and might be drawing level with Ross Smith by the end of the day if things are going to stay as they are, but they may not, because Paparanopoulos has just lost that place to Troy Ewan, and it's going backwards right now as well. So important if you're in a championship charge to make this race, these kinds of races, one of those that you just pick up solid points, because the chances are some of the other rivals that you're going up against might not be able to, and there's effectively, just by staying on the road, some free points.
Yeah, Le Mans, the wet is oftentimes a game of attrition. So you spend a lot of time really just tucking your head between your legs and hoping for the best. It's super challenging on a good day. So in these wet conditions, a lot of opportunities to pick up points where your opponents maybe didn't quite make it around the full circuit.
Peter Meyer is now catching George Angelidis for third place in the AM class as well. So there is plenty going on out there on the circuit at the moment. A couple of gaps that are less than a second or around a second at this stage in the race. Even if we have lost a quarter of the field, it is still pretty close in the field between a lot of these drivers. In that AM class, by the way, Peter Meyer is the championship leader. Jerry Chen just in behind, and at the moment would be gaining points. And George Angelidis has just gone off, I think. So that has given Peter Meyer a free position up to third in the class. And that is one we're going to look back at now. This is what happened to George Angelidis. It's Indianapolis again, and another spin again through this corner.
Yeah, Indianapolis catching everybody out today, it seems. Oh no! Oh, that was a close one. Yeesh.
Not going to be rejoining like that particularly. Rob Moling also in turn 3. Oh, turning over sit and going off and wide. Oh, and scraping the wall, I think, as well there with the tyres. So Moling drops back a little bit further as well. So that is Moling. Where's Moling got to now? I've lost him completely. 8th place in the field now. That was Ethan Funk who just got past him actually for 7th place overall. So there is that change. There's Troy Ewan versus Antonis Papadopoulos, by the way. They're only separated by a second as well.
Yeah, Papadopoulos doing a really good job getting his car back up in a position today. He started lower on the grid today, so good to see him make it through all this traffic. In the same car, of course, as well, with the two Jaguars. They're looking exactly the same, which is obviously got different numbers, but they are exactly the same as they make their way now out onto the straight. They are good cars to have around here. I think it's this very model, isn't it, that has the highest ever recorded speed at Le Mans? Maybe I've got that wrong, but it is a good, useful car to have around here at Le Mans. Papadopoulos is using that right now to just draft in behind Troy Ewan here, and if he can do that, he's got a chance of just staying with him here a little bit for this battle for second position, not long after being overtaken. But as we're following them here, he's losing time on this straight line on the way towards Kink, so maybe he's got a bit more fuel saving to do with over an hour left. I'm not sure. Yeah, I mean, they're running the same car too, so could be just a situation of Troy holding Papadopoulos up just long enough, so he can stay within that draft, keep his fuel savings down. I'm not sure he's in too much of a hurry to get past him. Is Antonis. It looks like Ethan Funk has been making up some ground here and is really starting to fight his way back up in that Porsche 956 as well.
Is that him fighting his way? He's on the back of Robin Moling at the moment. So whether he's going to be able to get back past again, because I know we saw him pass quite recently. We'll have to do it again now in that battle for 6th place in the Pro class. So Ethan Funk will be one to keep an eye on. Same for Maximilian Petrovsky, actually, is just behind Wouter de Bruyn, although they're not in the same class, unlike the other two I just mentioned. So Funk is going to have to try and come back through again here on Moling. It's very congested at that part of the field, though, from Moling right the way back the field to de Bruyn and Petrovsky as well. Those two battles on the circuit, as I mentioned, they are running four in a line as Papadopoulos goes for a big slide through Arnaud's that time.
Yeah, a bit of a tank slapper there, coming out of the corner. Just managed to keep it on track and not drop it into the grass. So nice recovery from Papadopoulos.
That now drops to 4 seconds further behind. You can see the gap, by the way, to McCuffin out front there. 2 minutes and a half now is the lead in Pro-Am for McCuffin. And the gaps always do get larger in the wet weather, but it's absolutely hats off to McCuffin, I think, who deserves all the credit here after over an hour of racing to be mixing it with the pros, first of all, but to have such a big lead in the Pro-Am class as well, that shows a driver who is having a very, very good afternoon indeed in the wet weather here at Le Mans.
Yeah, Troy Ewan has his work cut out for him if he's going to try and catch up to McGoffin. But it looks like he's run away with it quite successfully out front there in that Porsche 956. Hopefully, we see a little more action coming in behind from Tom Lane and Daniel Herlock as Herlock starts to close the distance. Still a huge gap between them, though.
It is absolutely huge. Herlock and Bussink might well try and just do it together here, though, as they're in 4th and 5th position. And Oko Bussink's going to wonder where he could have got to if he didn't have that penalty earlier on in the day. Of course, he did earn that penalty himself, so can't be too mad about it. But he will be wondering where he could have got to, since he's on the back of Herlock now, who hasn't had a penalty. Having said that, Herlock did have that spin through the Porsche curves earlier on in the race as well, and maybe that has played a big role in where he's found himself in this race, with still an hour and 5 remaining. Ooh, it's another battle to keep an eye on, though, if we can at all. Petrovsky and De Bruyn again, absolutely nose to tail. It's not a clash battle, but it is a battle for ninth place overall. It looks like Petrovsky's trying to come through to me. It might have been alongside for a brief moment, but he can't get past De Bruyn, who it says is on an outlap, but I don't believe that. To be honest, I didn't see him in, so I don't believe that necessarily. It seems to me it's just Petrovsky trying to get past in normal action here, and that's why he's only half a second behind him.
Yeah, definitely closing that gap. It looks like Dan Herlock out front there, not out front, but in 5th place, set another fastest lap. So he's feeling very comfortable in the wet weather right now. Scar Pope, 10 seconds up the road.
Yeah, it just shows Pope has got such good speed here in this race, but you know the mistakes have really kept this very close. Emka showing itself to be very, very strong around here, and I'm not saying that's why Scar Pope is in the lead by any means, but it is certainly helping along in this one, as we see here Petrovsky still pretty close in with Wouter De Bruyn here, and trying to make that move, in fact, to push on forwards now. This is an AM driver trying to get ahead of a pro. You don't see this very often, but Petrovsky looking very, very quick here as they go into the Porsche curves.
Yeah, obviously feeling a lot of grip and confidence in that car right now as Petrovsky seems to be holding quite comfortably in his position. Hopefully he can make a move here to make himself to get himself further up the track.
Yep, that is Petrovsky. Oh, over the curve. You can always get a bit worried about wet curves there, but that's fine. What's the weather conditions doing now? Still the same, so it looks like this might well maintain now for a while. Light rain with a pretty wet circuit maintaining for quite some time here, especially in these darkness conditions as well. The track's never going to dry that quickly anyway in these dark conditions, so that's going to remain how it is for a while. But it does seem that the wet weather either is something everybody's starting to get used to, or it's starting to have less of an effect on these drivers.
Yeah, I mean, once you've been driving in the rain for a while, especially in these longer kind of endurance races, you can. Daniel Herlock looks like he might be going for a pass here on Buznik.
And is he going to pull out the sixth big bet? You can barely see him. Look at that. Just me. Really close behind Buznik here as they go towards the gate. Make sure there's no contact on the way into here. This is going to be a very bad crash, but they get through it. And now over the top of the hill. Got to be really careful here. He doesn't land on the back of Buznik as they get back off this jump, and he just back off beforehand. So that's Buznik through into fourth, but as we saw there, Herlock not letting him get away at all.
No, not letting him right on his gearbox all the way through that straight. So we'll see if he can recover this position, or if he decides to just kind of hang in behind and try and save some fuel for a little bit later in the race as well. We still got an hour and 1 to go.
We do still have a pretty long time remaining in this one as they now make their way down the straight again in towards Indianapolis. Herlock, I think, is willing to stay behind this time into Indianapolis. do take it very fast into there, but they get it stood on the brakes in time, ready for the banked left-hander, and then in towards the Arnage corner as well. Two corners that are pretty unchanged throughout the history of this circuit. Fastest lap of the race still goes to Dan Hurlock, by the way, 26.5. That very much seems like it's out of the ordinary. As the sun, well, not the sun, but the lightness is starting to come back again here. Drivers have a bit of an easier time seeing where they're going for the next few moments, it looks like.
Yeah, it looks like we're about to see some sunrise here in Le Mans, which is good. Always nice to see. The tree's green instead of black again. But yeah, this battle for fourth is really tight. Hurlock holding station right behind Busink. Looks like he's content to be there for now.
We'll check in with that yellow flag if there is anything to report back there, but if not, the racing will continue. It is really starting to get a lot lighter now. It might be Petrovsky, who's just lost a place to Funk in the race. And Funk, by the way, didn't put dries on. You won't be surprised to learn. Don't know if I said that at the time, but he did make that second stop early on. He didn't put dries on, obviously. It's still far too wet for that as they continue out here. It was an extra position for him, though. Petrovsky is still dropping down. Where's he got to now? Oh, he's disqualified. Oh, my word. Max Petrovsky, who has led the whole way here in the AM class, is now disqualified. And, well, what has gone on here? Him. Oh, there's already a Stacey Scott's on the inside line, flashing so that the others can see. Now, Petrovsky spins around and gets back going again. And that all looks fine. Where does this... We're not sure where this disqualification has come from. Normally it'd be for something like driving down the wrong way when you're trying to spin yourself back round again. If you drive down too far the wrong way down the circuit, you get disqualified. But no, it just
was straight back to the pits there. Wow, that's
really
very unusual to see.
It is. It's a very, very unusual, really. Disappointing, of course, because he was leading for so long, but very unusual. It's hard to know what that disqualification's actually for.
Yeah, I don't know. Does the system automatically DQ you if you disconnect, maybe? Hard to say.
I think it's a DNF if you disconnect. Here are the teammates, by the way, Jerry Chen and Peter Meyer. Continuing on out front in the AM class now. They are in the same livery here, as you can see, battling away for the AM lead. So it has given us something, I suppose. It's given us a battle for the AM lead, but not in the way we would have liked. Petrovsky with a very strange and erroneous disqualification. If you've got any ideas, then let us know in YouTube chat. He had his headlights off, which is something that is noted by those in YouTube, but maybe that is why, I guess. But I haven't got any other explanations.
No, me either. It would make sense if we were still under a night cycle that you'd be able to turn your lights off until after a particular time, but an auto DQ for it seems a little strange.
I know it does happen in RF2, but it does seem harsh, doesn't it, really, to have the lights off and get disqualified for that as they now come over the line. Jerry Chen, Peter Meyer will be in the lead of the AM class now, 1 and 2. They're only 15 seconds or so ahead of Angelidis. It looks like Meyer's just bobbling around a little bit with some connection things there. It's a lot of pressure now for Chen, though. Peter Meyer is just in behind him. He is the championship leader, Meyer, and Jerry Chen in second. So these are 1 and 2 in the championship, also 1 and 2 in the AM class race right now at Le Mans as well.
Yeah, I imagine Meyer's going to want to snatch that place back as soon as he can, or get out in front of Jerry as soon as he can to see if he can get some clear air, because we're going to get to the point now where pushing to dry this track is going to be important. Track conditions are down. We've got like 12 degrees on track, an ambient of 21 degrees out there, so they're pushing on a cold, wet track as well. So it should be quite the push to the end of this race.
As Busink versus Hurlock through the Porsche curves now as well. This is the battle for fourth place in the pro class that has been going on for a while, and Busink sliding. They're all sliding at this stage as the light starts to come up and the track maybe gets a little bit less wet, but really the rain is still lightly falling. It is preventing this race from getting dry before the finish here. They're all starting to slide their cars around a little bit through these corners, which is I guess one way of driving them, kind of the way you have to drive them by the looks of it.
Yeah, absolutely. With these wet conditions, you're kind of floating on top of water most of the time. So it's just a matter of keeping your hands nice and loose and light and going with the flow, catching those snaps. Obviously, of the overturn and turn and stuff like that is going to be vitally important. It's why you see them wiggling around like that so much. It looks like Busink, though, I mean, is feeling pretty good in his car. He was one of the faster in practice, so he already ran a lot of laps in the wet prior to this race. So I think he's feeling pretty good right now.
Wasn't quite wide there, but he'll get away with that. Yeah, it's Herlock who's going to gain now on the straight out of Tete Rouge, and maybe he's going to come straight past, or is he going to fuel save? There's a big speed difference between them, and so I thought Herlock was going to go straight through, but no, he's going to get tucked right in behind Busink, and again, fuel saving still goes on. 55 minutes to go, and these drivers still, it feels to me, fuel saving a little bit less now in the wet weather conditions than expected, but they are still needing to save quite a lot, as you can see here.
Yeah, he's really determined to stick in that slipstream and not pull out. It's worth a lot in fuel, obviously, in these cars over a long period of time. So you do what you got to do. It's quite exciting to see how close he can really get on that bumper, though.
It's so close. And now through the right-hander, he's just going to back off slightly before the jump here, because they actually do get a bit of air, and you don't want to end up on the back of somebody. There you go, just that little bit of gap there, just in case things go a little bit wrong. Now in towards Mulsanne corner. Are they both going to stop it in time? No, I thought that was quite late on the brakes from Busink, and Herlock really nearly follows him. Busink goes in the gravel though, and Herlock stays on the circuit. That's the key difference, and Herlock goes through.
Yeah, it was close there. It looked like Herlock was going to follow him in hook, line, and sinker, but he managed to just catch the front end and spin her back around in time to take the place. Excellent move on the inside there.
That was pretty easy, and Herlock moves through into fourth position in the pro class. How long is that going to last for, I wonder? The gap has come down below 10 seconds, by the way, out front as well. Scott Pope is being caught by Rado Benenka. This is through the final Ford chicane. Oh, and a spin again for Stacey Scott's here. He has to come to pit lane, pretty much. There's no separation really between the pit entrance and the actual racetrack until you get to that point there, so you can actually end up down pit lane by accident. There's how Busink went off the circuit and let Herlock through there. Just a bit of a mistake on the brakes.
Yeah, he almost had it caught too. Just overcooked it trying to keep that corner, I think. Oh, this is Benenka chasing down Scar Pope now.
It's getting closer, isn't it? 8 seconds now. I feel like it was way above 10 earlier, but now it's 8 again. I wonder why that has come down, whether there was an individual mistake from Pope or whether there's fuel saving that needs to happen for the leader. I don't know, but worth noting that Benenka is a bit closer. Right, that might be right. And Scott Pope has really got away with one there. You do not often spin through the Porsche curves and get away without damage.
Oh, yeah, that was a massive tank slapper into the grass. It's a miracle he held on to that. And it's also a miracle he didn't get hit coming back on the track here, because it looks like he was about to. Yeah, oh, that's such a messy corner.
And back to live. Gap came down to 8 seconds or so. It's back out to 11 now, as you can see. Again, Pope has more speed than Benenka, but just needs to eliminate these problems and errors. So far, it's been the errors that is keeping Benenka well in touch in this race. If Pope had kept error-free so far, this race wouldn't be close, I don't think.
No, there's been so many back and forth due to error that it's almost hard to keep track. Scar Pope has the bit between his teeth, and he is pulling that gap again, but you got to wonder, how long is it going to be before another mistake happens that evens up the odds? Benenka now dropping back even further to 12 seconds.
That's Herlock right in behind Busink. Unbelievably close. You could almost reach out and touch him if his windscreen was reachable, as he uses him for a bit of fuel saving all over again. Heard from a few of the for the guys watching on that Herlock could be a factor in this race. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like it's going to be a factor for the race win, but certainly top 5 overall it is going to be. This, in fact, might be the last position that he can realistically get, because in front of Oko Busick here is 38 seconds up to Tom Lane. You'd imagine these two aren't going to be able to finish any higher than the positions they're currently fighting over here.
Yeah, I think Busick's pace is actually holding Herlock back from making gains on track. I think this is a huge mistake. Herlock should have passed him and tried getting up the order much sooner. Might be too late.
Well, still a long way to go. 50 minutes or so in this race. And we are yet to see the real unleashing of those who have fuel saved smartly and done the real hard bits early in the race, and those who have left it a bit too late and having to really slow down and maybe expected this race to go one lap shorter rather than it actually has ended up going, and they end up really scrambling for that last lap of fuel. We'll wait and see if there is anybody like that towards the end, but it's such a huge factor of these races, the fact you can't refuel. These 2.4 hours are very, very difficult to get to the end of indeed, and that is why you're seeing the kind of racing we're seeing at the moment. That's why you're seeing Herlock use Busick for slipstreaming so much there.
Yeah, it looks like a little further down the grid there, we got a really close battle between Antonis Papadopoulos and Timon Suvic.
Yeah.
Ross Smith, sorry.
Ross Smith. Both. They're all there. It's a 3-car battle actually. So it is Suvic first, then Papadopoulos and Smith, who are in the same class in the Pro-Am. So those will be the two fighting over actual points here. But this is a 3-car battle here, and we haven't seen one of these for a little while now. A double slipstream for Ross Smith at the back of this group.
Yeah, he's loving this, isn't he? I don't know if I'd be liking the spray in my face, but he seems to be hanging in there fairly well. Oh, and a pass coming up here. There we go. Gets it done. Jolly good.
Pretty easy. On the Mulsanne straight. What is Papadopoulos doing on a straight line here? Really slow in a straight line. That's me. And Ross Smith's actually closing in on Suvic as well here to try and come through. Oh, whoa! And doesn't look down the inside for the King. That's really high stakes stuff there coming through that corner. And thankfully didn't quite go for it on the inside line. Up over the top of the hill they go, and Ross Smith is going to hold on to that position ahead of Papadopoulos, of course, but not get through on Suvic this time. After a nice run down the straight, which saw him much quicker in a straight line. Maybe Papadopoulos is really desperate for fuel already, I don't know.
Yeah, hard to tell. Also, I mean, he could have just decided he was pushing too hard, now needs to back off a bit. We'll see how close he can keep it to Ross. Oh, it looks like another DNF here.
Let's have a look at a replay of what happened here to Ethan Funk, who was running well inside the top 10 for all of today. Slides through the Porsche curves, and there is a slap into the wall.
Oh, yeah, that might just end his day. Time to go have some coffee and figure out what's going on there. That was a big tank slapper into the wall.
Was, and there you can see the suspension damage already. Oh dear, that doesn't look healthy. And yep, he didn't get that back. He didn't repair it, and that is the end of that for Ethan Funk. This is George Angelidis into Tetrus. That's a very... Where's he going there? Where are you going, George? Oh, that was close to the wall as well. He very nearly clipped the wall there, and that would have been pretty big damage on the rear left for him as well there. He went through there. This is Stacey Scott's. Is this the same one we saw from before? All right, just done the same thing again there.
Is Stacey going to have to go through the pits again, or oh no, manages to get her turned back around.
Different but the same. Is that the place? Anyway, a little bit of deja vu, but there we go. Stacey Scott's still going, which is fair play because 3 laps down, 7 down actually now. Rejoined 3 laps down. And is now 7 down. Philip Ducati's still going away 2 laps down, and we've only got 14 left on the lead lap. So fair play to everybody who is continuing on in this race despite being laps down, because that's exactly what these longer races are all about here at the 2.4 Hours of Le Mans especially.
Yeah, we got 20 cars still running in the in the lead lap or one lap down sort of situation as far as the C1Ms go. But it looks like this is turning out to be a fantastic race. Lots of action. A lot of fuel saving. I will give it that. It has been very strategic in certain places on track. But the action out front was crazy good for a while. But now we look, and Scar Pope has pulled out almost a 20-second lead.
This is a fantastic lead for Scar Pope, and behind the rest are left to scrap for the minor positions here. Elko Bussink versus Dan Herlock, who is, nearly off the road. That was a good save. He had a big slide there on the way in and very nearly got into the gravel and very nearly got out wide and off the circuit there. But Dan Herlock just about holds on again. He just can't seem to get free of Elko Bussink here, even though he looks quicker. Now, that might be by design because he's fuel saving, but this battle's been going on for a long time now.
Yeah, it looks like he's just having a replay. Awesome. Scar Pope again.
Wow.
Off into the kitty litter, and he makes contact with the wall this time. Oh, if he's not careful, he's going to give up his lead.
Well, this is getting good. Again, Pope's so much quicker than Beninka, but still making mistakes. Is this Ross Smith again? Sorry, not Scott. They look similar. It's Ross Smith having a very similar spin, though, to what Scott's did in the last couple of moments. That Pro-Am Championship leader ending up in the gravel down here at the Ford Chicanes. And suddenly the Ford Chicanes have been found to be very difficult. This is Peter Meyer, I think, off into the Chicanes and through onto the front straight through the gravel. This is Stacey Scott's braking late for Indianapolis and just about making it through without hitting the wall, at least that time around. So
wow, lots of action in the replays there with especially with that Ford chicane. Not sure why all of a sudden people are having such a hard time getting through it, but that's seems to be a brutal spot right now. Is it because the wets are hitting dry spots there, or not sure.
It's very interesting how this is starting to happen now, especially at those Ford chicanes. And the rain has officially now stopped, by the way. So the circuit might well start to get a lot drier as Pope now slides. Obviously, there is spray being kicked up here, and so that's why we've got dots on the windscreen here on board with Scar Pope. But I wonder in the next 44 minutes whether this track is going to get dry enough for dry tyres or not. I don't suspect the leaders will be taking any risks to try and get the dries on as quickly as possible, but it's worth noting that the rain has now stopped.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on this wetness level and see how the spray manages to drop over the time that we've got left in this race, 43 minutes. We could see a switch to another switch to the prime, the slick tires well before the end of this race again, which would give us a huge change.
Yep, it certainly would. Well,
that lead of Scar Pope's coming down to 14 seconds now, so he is having a harder time recovering from that spin that he had. Beninka definitely catching up here on the back end.
I feel like there's going to be another stretching of this margin for Pope over Beninka, to be honest. This is Dan Herlock, meanwhile, just on the back of Elko Bussink, and look at the spray that they've got going on up in front of them here. This is not for position in terms of those in front of them. Obviously, Bussink versus Herlock is still for position, but more traffic, and this is starting to become a factor in this race, isn't it, really? I know there's not as many left in the field as before, but because of retirements. However, we are now seeing more traffic than before because the field is very spread out compared to the start of the race.
Yeah, of course, and because the AMs are the C1Ms are so close together on track, that when the leaders do encounter these back markers, they're all fighting for position. So this does not make overtaking back markers easy. You got the spray. Oh, there we go on the inside. It looks like we've got a pass of one, and still in the tire tracks is Herlock.
He is through Maison Blanche now. This flat out chicane before the actual Ford chicanes at the very end of this straight. Into the corners they now go, and that is Bussink bit later on the brakes this time. These two not having as many problems through the forward chicanes as some of the others have been having in the last few moments as they slide their way out as well. You can tell the speed in this track is starting to come back again. We were in the 45s at the very quickest earlier. We're now already down to 41s that time from Ilka Bussing and 39s elsewhere around the circuit for the likes of Robin Moling. This circuit is getting quicker as the circuit is drying out. The pace is getting up and Dan Herlock is putting the pressure on in this battle for fourth place again.
Yeah, a lot of exciting speed coming on here now. We're still dealing with a lot of spray and a lot of rallying still with a lot of people coming out of those forward chicanes kind of sideways. Exciting stuff to watch, though.
It is, yeah. I mean, I don't know about you. I'd really dislike driving a car that would be so oversteery like that and difficult on the power, but these guys just seem so good at this kind of thing. Controlling the slides in prototypes, I think, is a sort of skill that these drivers have got that is not spoken about by us really enough. As Herlock's actually bump drafting it looks like down here.
Yeah, this looks like NASCAR. This is fantastic coming down the coming down into Mulsanne. I don't know if I could do this. This scares the crap out of me right now.
It's unbelievably difficult. Really, really difficult to control these cars. Sliding prototypes all over the place is very much an acquired skill. Through the right-hander, I think, and Herlock absolutely nose tail. And again, as always, Herlock just backed off a little bit through the kink, and he will over the jump as well here. Although, yeah, there you go. Jumps a little bit further back, and now lifts off all the way down the braking zone, partly because there's lap traffic in front and there's no need to push on right the way into the corner, as we've seen before, out the other side. Herlock still with no way past for the moment. He's still saving fuel, even with only 40 minutes to go.
Yeah, I was a little surprised that he hasn't made a move yet, but I mean, he obviously knows what he's doing. He is leading the championship, if I'm not mistaken.
Herlock, yeah, Herlock is.
Yeah, so I imagine he's got he's got a specific point in the race where he's going to finally make his move. He's been conserving fuel this entire time. He's got to have way more in the tank than Bussing does.
Well, he might have to park that for a second while there's traffic. Bussing goes past, and Herlock will do the same now as well. Is that Angelidis? Looks a bit similar to him, but maybe not. Through anyway, there you go. And now onto the straight on the way towards the porch. No, it's not Angelidis. There he is. Misidentified. Apologies for that. But it's another Martini car. But Herlock gets through just as quickly as Bussing did as well, and they can continue their fight. And they will continue their fight as well. This is really the only one going on out there on the circuit right now, I guess, other than Ross Smith and Antonis Papadopoulos. Right now, they are 1 and 2 in the championship, only third and fourth in this race, but they are battling away for position again here. As we saw, though, Papadopoulos doesn't have much straight line speed. Let's see if that's changed as we watch them down the Mulsanne straight this time.
Yeah, it looks like he's right on the gearbox of Ross Smith. Doesn't look like he's too interested in making a pass at this point, though.
No, he doesn't really look that interested. He's just dropping back now as well. So, not as much as last time, but he is dropping back towards the end of the straight. Look at that. Is that going to be a problem for him later on, maybe? If that is his actual straight line speed, he's really going to struggle. I don't know whether this is his actual straight line speed or whether he's saving fuel, but that is... Look at the gap growing there. Goodness me, that's a problem for him.
Yeah, definitely. If he's not able to get the hammer down the straights, it's going to be game over. He's really got to figure out how he can get some more speed, some straight line speed. What your options are, I don't know, in these old classic cars for changing things on the fly, but hopefully he can make up some more pace.
It's almost at the stage where I think there's almost damage on that car. It's so pronounced, the difference in terms of straight line speed there. But anyway, 3.5 seconds it goes to all of a sudden. And now he's got another one of the Jaguars to try and negotiate before he can even get anywhere close again to Ross Smith in the front of him there. It's Magnus Dahlgren, actually, who's just in front of him. I know they're not in the same class, but they are battling for a position here. Magnus Dahlgren in the pro class, outside of the top 6, though, and he's going to be passed by Papadopoulos down in towards Indianapolis. So that's another change of position there for 13th place rather overall. It's so great in this in this series that we've got just one car class, if you like. I know we've got different driver classes, but Pro-Am and Am all mean that you can have good racing
Tony
even
McCoffin with
classes.
a big spin right in the middle of the track. Oh, and then he goes right into the wall. That was interesting. I'm not sure why he decided that was a good move.
I think he thought he'd put it in reverse and then, accelerated, thinking he was in reverse, accelerated in first place. This is first gear, sorry. Oh, Stephen Miller, this is going to be a big one. It's a big, and the gravel saved him there. The slide there at the end of the Mulsanne straight is a real problem. This is in towards turn 3. Wow, good save. Oh, sort of.
Yeah, I think what's happening here is these wets are starting to really fall off now that the track is starting to dry. Oh yeah, everybody's just having a huge problem with grip out there.
And that was Ducati, that last one. This is Stacey Scott's getting it wrong for the first bit. You can have it wrong for the second bit and the third as well. Outside wall, then inside wall. And that is more damage, unfortunately, for that car.
Yeah, everybody finding the walls today. It looks like a lot of minor scrapes and scratches and dents. I imagine a lot of cars will be coming back to the pits, with varying degrees of damage and drivability and issues that they've got. So, yeah, this has been a barn burner of a race.
Certainly has. Herlock again sliding. This is going to be dry tyres before the end, I feel. This circuit is getting dry now, and you mentioned it's drying. I've just looked at the data. Well, we don't need data really to see that it's dry, but it certainly is. And look at the way these wet tyres now are starting to slide across. Herlock's getting more and more slideways, I guess, as he goes along. More and more slides as he's continuing. This is really, really difficult stuff now for Dan Herlock, who I think is going to be pretty enticed by the idea of dry tyres again before the end of this race.
Yeah, I just checked the word slideways in the Urban Dictionary, and they're telling me you're full of crap, mate.
I've just made one up. It's fine. It's a word now. So there we go. But yeah,
we just need to make it a thing.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. It just seems to me that this is going to be dry tyres again before the end. We've still got 34 minutes to go after all. The only problem, I guess, is when you go offline. You can see it on the sides of the circuit when they're not quite dead on the racing line. It's a lot darker out there, and it just throw up the spray as well.
Yeah, and cutting these chicanes like they're normally used to is going. Big tank slapper there. Cutting these chicanes is really causing a lot of problems because you're hitting paint, and the paint is still wet. And then you've also still got standing water in certain spots of the track as it dries out. So very tricky conditions. I'm interested to see who's going to blink first and come in for the dries because the lines are looking pretty good right now.
And there goes Herlock cruising up to the back of Bussing, and still he's got no interest of passing. It's going to be another recalculation of fuel as well here, because while they get quicker, they are using more fuel as well, and they need to make sure they don't get overexcited here and start to use a bit more fuel than they can afford to before the end of this race. There's been so many different weather conditions changing here that means that different fuel loads per lap are being used, and so it's just another adjustment that's having to be made with only half an hour to go. That's another thing to think about here.
Yeah, and as we get deeper, just looking at the timing sheet here, we still have Herlock on the fastest lap at a 3:26.5. And nobody so far has really put in anything more scorching than that. So track evolution here is still kind of up in the air. Sector times are still around the same as they were. So I think these tires might be starting to fall off.
Yeah, we are starting to, certainly some of these drivers, see them go a bit slower. Tony McCoffin is a little bit slower than what he was. Scott Pope seems to have been off the road. We have got that gap coming down in the lead of this race, and it's the Porsche curves again. Is it a scrape on the wall? Oh my! Oh, it is pretty big in the wall. Pope in the wall,
that is
pretty hard
huge
there.
damage.
That could be big damage here, and that
Beninka takes the lead of the race.
Yeah. And Pope is out not in the pit lane yet, but out of the lead. There, finally, Pope getting back going again. This is huge for this race.
Yeah, this changes the whole look of the race now. Beninka has a real shot here if he can pull away. Again, still waiting to see who's coming in.
Another lap, and Pope, I don't think he's into pit lane. All right, yeah, so Pope carries on. So not quite time for dries yet, but another error from Pope. Again, I'll repeat what I said earlier on. I know I'm repeating myself. If Pope hadn't made even half of these errors here tonight, then this race would have been won by some distance.
Yeah, these mixed conditions playing just a huge role in the outlook of this race. Beninka has been solid throughout, keeping decent pace, keeping his tires between the lines. You got to give it to him. It's been a stellar hold on race for him. Scar Pope, on the other hand, finding himself really in the wars today, and kind of his own making.
Oh, dear me, on the right-hand side, just squeezing through on one of the cars and now flying down the straight, trying to close in on a number of others. There's so much traffic here, by the way, for these leaders to contend with. And look at this down the next part of the straight, under some of the trees here. The spray gets very, very fierce as they come over the white lines, as you were talking about earlier on, and all sorts down the straight. Then they get into this next section where it's a little bit less bad, and there'll be a bit more spray a little bit further down the straight again as well. This is going to be tense between Beninka and Pope again here in the battle for the race lead. Half an hour still to go, but Pope is not going to be done here one bit.
No, he's got the bit between his teeth, and he's storming back. Obviously quite upset at that mistake he made earlier on, just right on the box of that Lancia now.
So close in behind here as they now come out of that final corner and onto the straight. Beninka and Pope on the straight now and in the slipstream of one another once again here with less than half an hour to go, and surely a chance of a dry circuit for the final part of this race as well. Nobody yet has got on to dries, so we are still at fully wet tyres from everybody as we go on board with these two down in towards Indianapolis here. It is
Pope finally making the move on Beninka.
Yeah, sorry, I was just looking through the timing screen there at who's going to be on the wet tyres or whatever. Pope just, again, through easily. Again, like most of the passes, just easy for Pope here to make these passes.
Yeah, he's making the passes look easy, but he's not making the corners look very easy. If he can keep it on the track, he's got himself a real chance here. But that seems to be a pretty big if. Wetness levels are dropping on the track now. We've gone from a 560 to a 540. So most of the track is starting to dry out, and still 28 minutes to go in this race. When do the dries come out?
You got away with it.
So close. Yeah, he's just gotten away with it there. As Beninka putting so much more pressure on him in this later half of the race.
They're just following the leader here. Stephen Miller just in front of them. Oh, and trying to stay out the way. That's exactly why you don't try and pull out the way, because they're not predicting it. And Pope there very nearly ran straight into the back of Miller there, because Miller pulled out the way. And I get that he's trying to be nice and pull out the way, but you get rear-ended very quickly if you do that too often. And we got away with it that time, thankfully, in part to Pope's quick reactions through that final corner of the Porsche. Over the line again. Beninka still very close in behind, but they'll be glad to clear that bit of traffic they had on that lap now.
Oh, absolutely. Breathing a huge sigh of relief coming through there now that they've got some clear air ahead of them and a dry track. It looks like they're just opening up now. We'll see who managed to keep those wets cleaner over that last stint, as to whether or not Scar Pope can keep it on the track out front or not. It looks like Beninka is really pushing him to make a mistake here, and Scar has made a few today.
Yeah, well, absolutely. If you just keep applying that pressure, then maybe it's going to come to something at some point a little bit later on. So yeah, it's absolutely a reasonable thing to do here for Scar Pope for Edouard Beninka on Scar Pope, because you're right, there's been lots of mistakes so far today. Tom Lane, by the way, is only 19 seconds behind these two, and so maybe he's going to be fancying his chances here. Just a couple more battles, a couple more mistakes, and Tom Lane will be within touching distance of these guys as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And Tony McGoffin is not too far down the road behind that either. So it's boiling up to be a really interesting end of this race. 26 minutes to go. Scar Pope currently out front, but for how long? Here comes Beninka in the corner.
Yeah, right behind. So is there going to be a chance over the top of the hill? Well, no. Beninka backs off. Look at the lifting off there. Well, Beninka really lifting off very quickly. And you know, that's one of the problems with being the slightly slower driver, is the fact that you won't have been able to save quite so much fuel, I wouldn't imagine, over the course of the day so far, if you're just not quite as quick in normal speed. But we'll see whether Pope and Beninka have any differences in the amount of fuel that they need to make themselves get towards the end of this race. They should need another 7 laps at the end of this one, just 7 laps to go, and it is still really close between these top two overall.
Yeah, this is really still anybody's race, and we're almost we're almost 3/4, about 4th through. It's been absolutely neck and neck between Pope and Beninka all race.
Whoa, Beninka on the power just made a mistake, and that is going to be a 1.5 seconds or so. We haven't seen very many mistakes from Beninka so far, but that was one of them, and there is the gap growing to 2 seconds. Again, the pace for Scar Pope is starting to show itself once again here. Now Pope has got to keep the race or keep that car clean for the remainder here, and you know, got away with once or twice already without getting damaged, so it's got to be careful now for the remainder of this race.
Yeah, Scar's going to see that in his rear views and be having a grin on his face. He hasn't made too many, Beninka hasn't made too many of those mistakes since he was on dries earlier, when he was having a bit of a slithering issue with that rear end of that Lancia. So hopefully Scar can keep it on track, keep his keep his nose down, keep it clean.
Hopefully for the remaining 24.5 minutes. As I said, there is going to be 7 laps probably within that amount of time. It is still continuing to dry out there on the circuit, but we haven't seen even these wet tyre runners even searching for the wet parts of the circuit to try and cool their tyres down. So clearly those wet tyres aren't overheating to any sort of problem at this stage in the race, and it looks like they're going to keep them on to the end of the race. It looks like that to me anyway.
Yeah, it also looks like Ducati may have gone out on some dry weather tires down in 20th place. So keep an eye on him to see if he can set some pace on those tires.
Right. So that's and 203 first sector is a lot slower. Maybe this is why, I suppose, but a lot slower than what you'd expect. Well, it's only a little short. Oh, and that's the problem. That's when you go wide and you're in the wet part, and that's when you're going to get into trouble.
Yeah, you got to keep it on those dry lines. I mean, that was interesting strategy call, but you got to keep it in off the paint and in the dry.
Peter Meyer, have we seen that before, or is he just doing it again?
I think he's doing it again. Yeah, looks like that's another run through, same bat time, same bat channel.
This is on the way into pit lane. Oh. It's hard to see from there, but he did jump over the grass there and all sorts. Miller's coming out the pit lane at the same time. So
a lot of grass cutting going on today. They'll be quite happy around Spot. They don't have to run the mowers quite so much this week.
Yes, there's a lot of grass cutting going on for them already. Over the jump for Pope and Beninka, who's giving it a good go this time round, and still is close in behind Pope. Tom Lane is now 8 seconds further behind them, by the way. Not sure quite why that is, but you might well get our leading battle here in the final 20 minutes between these two, because Beninka's just finding a bit of extra speed here when it matters towards the end.
Yeah, Beninka putting his foot through the floor to catch back up to Scar Pope. Desperate to keep that pressure up on him, knowing that Scar's had significant issues this afternoon keeping that car on the track. So I think Beninka can smell the wind coming, but he's got to push.
How much fuel just held on? He's just save. He's still behind. Of course, in the same way. He must have feel for another extra race at this rate. He's been behind him for absolutely ages, not making any moves. We haven't missed anything while we've not been watching them in the last few moments, and still there he is again. Oh dear, and Bussing really quite slow actually on the straight. I get the feeling here that these two could have worked together a little bit more. You know, I get the fuel saving because it is quite severe around here, and I totally get that. However, surely you do one lap on, one lap off. You know, one lap with Bussing in front, one lap with Herlock in front, so that you can both do an equal amount of fuel saving. You could both go a little bit quicker, primarily as well.
Yeah, it's usually a give-take relationship when you're on the same team, but right now we don't have that that choice. I think what's happening right now is he's playing with them, and I don't really know why. It doesn't make much sense. He had a chance to pass him ages ago, and probably should have now that the time's running out the clock.
I can't get my head around this battle, to be honest with you. This is all this is all Herlock saving at the moment. As again, in towards the Porsche curves, he does it all over again. He is the championship leader coming into today, and he's sliding his way through the Porsche curves again. That has been a recurring theme of this race for him. He's going to lose the championship lead to Beninka, especially if Beninka wins, but even in this situation he might lose the championship lead. Having said that, Beninka has just made a mistake, I think, and has dropped around 4 seconds off of the lead. Not anything major, I don't think, but has just dropped a few seconds further behind where he was before. Scarpope continues to lead by a pretty comfortable advantage now in this race. 20 minutes to go, 6 laps to go. The track is continuing to dry, but it's not dry enough, and I don't think there's enough time in the race remaining for it to be worth coming into dry tyres right now anyway. So we might well see everybody staying on these tyres to the finish now.
Yeah, the only ones switching out to the dry tires are much lower down the field. We've got Vincius Goncalves has switched, and he's the highest runner right now, doing not bad times. We also have a fast lap down there of a 142 Sector 1 from Ducati. So if they can turn those dry tires on, I mean, it could be interesting to see what happens down in the C1M category.
That's busting quite wide. Is Herlock finally going to go for it? No. Even when given the opportunity, he doesn't go past Bussing here, and you can see him weaving around right and left there a little bit. But no, he's still not going to go for it. They are by far the closest on the circuit for the moment, but they are not passing one another, as you can see here. Bussing is not that far behind Johnny McCoffin right now either, by the way. You can see him a second and a half further up the road. That's not a lap car in front of them. That is a car 4 position, although it is not class position. Another close battle. Ross Smith is catching up to Timon Subic, but that's just Smith consolidating 3rd place in the Pro-Am class, with Antonius Paparanopoulos now in the rearview mirror. Here comes Bussing. He's closing in onto McCoffin here himself. Now, is Herlock going to go for a double move? Is Bussing going to go through? He certainly does. They're both going to gain an overall place through not doing very much at all then. McCoffin wants to draft off the back of them as well, by the looks of it.
Yeah, and McCoffin has been punching through air all day, so he'll be happy to drop in behind here for the next little, probably the next 10-15 minutes before he tries to make a move again, if he can make a move again. Not sure what he's got left in the tank at this point. Out front, Scar Pope's pulled out a 7-second lead over Beninka, so we're looking like things are stretching out a little bit near the end of the race.
18 minutes to go. Let's have a look. This is Ducati, first of all, into Porsche curves on the dry tyres. Slides on turn in there. Goes for a spin, and the gravel will save him from hitting the wall just. Oh, gritty grass. Is that just very dry grass? Anyway, Subic through the Porsche curves as well, going for a big slide. Oh, and he does back into the wall quite hard. It was quite hard from him. And there you go, spins all the way around. This is Paparanopoulos out of the final corner into the wide, wet part, and he does well to keep it up the tyres there.
Yeah, a couple of moments on the back end there for some people, scary bits, but no major occurrences so far late in this race.
We are seeing more and more drivers into the pit lane to put on dry tyres now. Troy Ewan has into pit lane to put them on right now. Vinicius Gonçalves, Stephen Miller, Philippe Ducati, Stacey Scott's all on dry tyres as well. And the first sector for Gonçalves last time was very good. Ducati's first sector was the best of anyone for last time around. What about second sector? A little bit further away from where they need to be for Stephen Miller, but we'll see about the other time. So maybe the dry tyres do have some speed to gain here. But again, I think they've all left it so late now. There isn't enough laps left in the race to make it worthwhile, I don't think.
Yeah, I think the big problem around here is just the length of the track and the length of the lap. It's too little, too late. Sun came out at the wrong time. It would have been nice if we'd had the rain stop sometime in the evening, where we could get a much drier line coming into the daytime. But they're still pushing. Every sector on these dries is looking better and better. So as this track dries out, anything can happen.
It is, another wide line. I don't know what Busink's line is about there, whether that is about grabbing some of the moisture and just putting some of the heat out of his tyres here. Again, Herlock right in behind him. I wonder at what stage he is actually going to make this move, because he's got 15 and a half minutes to go. Is he just going to wait for the last lap, having trailed him all day long? I'm not sure. Because after all of this time, it's going to be quite weird to see Herlock trying to make an overtake.
Yeah, and at this point, I don't think Busink's really in any position to fight against Tom Lane for third. So I'm really not sure why Herlock is holding on to this right now when he has a chance to get past. Maybe he's thinking he just can't quite catch that gap either to Tom.
New personal best, by the way, for Vinicius Gonçalves last time round, 29.1. So that was a very quick lap time indeed, and he went flying through the second and final sectors as well. Those dry tyres for Vinicius Gonçalves are working very, very well indeed. So he's going to catch up to Jerry Chen, although he's got such a big gap. He might not catch up to Jerry Chen in that third place battle. 41 seconds it is right now, 14 minutes. Feels like that's too big of a margin. Troy Ewan comes out onto the circuit again in the Pro-Am class, but he's now about 30 seconds off of Ross Smith. Can he gain 30 seconds in 15 minutes? Really? I think that's going to be a struggle.
Oh, it's a huge ask, Herculean tasks for sure, but I don't think that's doable. It looks like right now we're looking at the gaps from the top 10 just starting to spread out, other than Herlock holding in tight behind Busink there. But it's looking like this might be pretty close to our lineup here at the end of the race. I know we got 14 minutes left, but yeah, field's starting to spread out.
It certainly is, and that's what you expect from one of these 2.4 hours of Le Mans. I think it's hard to overstate just how much the rain has had an effect on this race, and I know that's a silly thing to say, but I mean in terms of the attrition really, and in terms of the spread out of the field, as you were just talking about there. Feels to me like in the dry early on in the race, yes, we had a couple of incidents here or there and a couple of retirements even as well before the rain hit, but for the most part it was drivers going pretty well and pretty cleanly on the start of this race until night fell and until the rain started to fall. But through that period we saw a lot more retirements, a lot more incidents as well, and now we're starting to get back to that dry weather driving, although having said that, yeah, Busink just went off there just as I was saying that, so maybe I'll stop with that sentence. But yeah, it does feel to me like the wet weather is what's provided most of the attrition for this one.
Here's that replay of Busink again coming, just wide on that corner and then over the grass. Oh, he is so lucky he didn't go into that wall.
It's a little bit, but... And Herlock was not able to take advantage of it that time round, and still over the Dunlop Bridge, he still cannot get past as they come down the other side of the hill. I think, and Herlock still 1 and 2 in this race. They actually got rid of Tony McCoffin very, very quickly here, further behind. Vinicius Gonçalves now only 30 seconds behind Jerry Chen already, after gaining 3.1 seconds in the first sector, 2.3 in the second sector, and no doubt, well, if he does the last sector he did last time again, he'll gain another 8 seconds in the final sector. Maybe those dry tyres are suddenly becoming worth it. Look at him flying here through the final sector.
Yeah, those dry tires are coming alive on this track as it evolves. A lot of the wet spots, a lot of the major wet spots have now been kind of blasted out of those corners and stuff. So the standing water is just not there anymore. We're down to a 0% to 40% wetness on some areas of the track, but it's few and far between. It's definitely going to come down to, who can make these dry tires really turn them on in these last 11 minutes of the race.
11.3 seconds gained by Gonçalves last time round on Jerry Chen. 2 purple sectors in the first 2 for Philippe Ducati before a mistake in the final sector. We were going to have a new fastest lap of the race there, but Philippe Ducati has gone off the circuit through that final sector. Or if he didn't go, it's Gonçalves! No! He's crashed!
No.
And that's exactly the problem with the dry tyres. They may be quicker if you get it together, but if you go slightly wider in the wet bits, and that will give you a big crash, unfortunately. Vinicius Gonçalves into the wall, out of Tête Rouge.
Yeah, after 2.5 hours of racing, these guys must be just knackered. Fatigue's playing a huge part in this role, in this race, I'm sure, along with some of those still wet spots out on track. Just a huge disappointing hit for Galvez there.
That is very disappointing. I was very much enjoying seeing him run around with those fast lap times. It looks like he's got away without damage, to be honest, but we'll see whether his confidence is damaged by that incident in the last couple of moments. It looks like now, with the final 10 minutes looming, no one else is going to come in for the dry tyres, even though these wet tyres are evidently not the tyres to be on at this stage. They are nowhere near as quick. However, it's quicker to stay out on the tyres that you're already aware of and you already know. And of course, there are dangers that come with putting on the dry tyres, as we just saw, especially with getting them up to temperature at the start of the stint.
Herlock looking like he's almost offline in a couple of these places. I wouldn't want to be driving on the grass if I were him.
Yes, he's snapping around a bit, I've got to say. From the outside, it looks like these sort of very gradual slides that he's sort of correcting almost as a course of trying to go quickly. But actually, when you go on board, it looks like that car's snapping around all over the place. Doesn't look very nice to drive, to be honest with you, on these tyres right now.
No, quite a handful on these worn-out tires, it looks like. I mean, you can just see him wriggling behind, trying to keep that speed down and the torque on the track. But still, not making that pass. Very confusing.
It's somewhat under the Dunlop Bridge. And into turn number 3. You can, again, battle it out here. That 4th position. When is Herlock going to do that move? We're expecting it at some point. If he doesn't make it at any point at the end of all this, I'm going to be very disappointed, I've got to say, of Dan Herlock. Pretty much chance. Whoa, what a big save that is for Dan Herlock through Tête Rouge. He had a big slide through the gravel, and he somehow got away with it.
Huge tank slapper there. Oh my God, my heart went into my throat for a second. Just managed to keep it on track. Brilliant recovery.
It was unbelievable. He's going to get straight back again to Bussink by the looks of it. The straight line speed of that Jaguar is very good compared to the Porsche, and Bussink again can't do anything. Still, Herlock wants to stay behind him though. I really don't know what he's doing.
Yeah, with 8 minutes left, we've got not much time to make that move and have it stick, but he seems pretty confident, and for good reason. I mean, his pace has been incredible this race. I just don't know why he's not taking advantage of it.
He's just staying behind here, and for some reason not taking advantage of the clear speed that he does have, especially in a straight line here in this race. The leader, by the way, is not too far away from the end of another lap, and it looks like it's going to be, well, it's another personal best actually for Scar Pope last time round, but it looks like it is going to be 2 laps to go at the line. Or maybe even just 3 because of the increased speed at the very end of this race. I reckon that it is probably going to be 2 though, as Herlock again gets close to Bussink, bringing another couple along with them. Tom Lane's being reeled in by these guys as well, don't forget. 8 seconds only the gap. Maybe that's what he's thinking about a little bit here, but 8 seconds in 7 minutes is going to be a big ask as well.
Yeah, and it's not getting any shorter this time, so you got to make a move at some point. Really, really strange. Further down, oh, somebody off track there.
Is that Meyer?
Into the
Is that
wall,
Peter
it looked
Meyer?
like.
That's the AM leader. The AM leader's off through Indianapolis. That was Peter Meyer just in the background, who went off the road. George Angelidis was catching him and putting the pressure on here, and he's made the error. Peter Meyer breaks too late for Indianapolis, goes off into the gravel, slides to a stop, and George Angelidis goes through on the inside.
Yeah, big mistake near the end of the race there. Hopefully he can get back up and tuck himself in behind again. But that was, yeah, it's not what you want to see late in this late stage of the race.
Absolutely not. That is a shame for Peter Meyer, who has lost that lead. Lost that lead to George Angelidis, who starts today, by the way, 15 points behind Meyer in the championship. Meyer's going to keep that championship lead because he's ahead of Jerry Chen, but he would have really liked to win this race, and he's not going to from this position. That is a real shame for him. Elke Bussing and Dan Herlock still the closest on the circuit. They're 6 seconds behind Tom Lane right now. A stop in front. George Angelidis goes off the circuit through the Porsche curves. He's slow now, coming into the final 4 chicanes. This could be an AM battle for the ages towards the end of this race.
Yeah, this is a close one. Keep eye on this part of the track here. They're just switching speed sectors back and forth. He's catching him so quickly now.
This is going to be a battle to the end of the race for these two. They've done 1 lap shorter, by the way, than the leaders, so they should have more fuel on board to play with than some of the others will do. Scott Pope comes through at the end of another half lap here. It's going to be really, close again as to whether it's going to be last lap this time around or not. We'll keep an eye on that in the next minute and a half or so, as the last battles of this race sort themselves out. George Angelidis now leading ahead of Peter Meyer, but with 5 minutes to go, it could be a grandstand finish. It's Emke versus Lancia onto the straight. Will the Emke use that strength that it has around here in Le Mans and trying to get past again here for Peter Meyer?
Yeah, Meyer desperate to get the gas down. You can see him wiggling out of the entrance of the straight and just barreling down. I think he's closing gap now, 4 tenths, 3 tenths. Yeah, looks like he might make a move here. Brilliant on the inside. Let's see if they can run it through.
Straight through on the inside, so Peter Meyer uses the slipstream and gets through. Now George Angelidis get back into the slipstream here and come straight back through again. He's going to grab that slipstream, he's going to close in again here. Goodness me, we're in for a great last lap battle here if this continues as we go in towards the kink. Angelidis through, straight through, back on the inside line again. They exchange places around this circuit. You can do that so easily. George Angelidis loses and regains the lead all in one trip down the Mulsanne straight.
Yeah, and a huge jump off that hill for Meyer. He's got only a couple of opportunities left in this race to get the lead, to catch that position back. You can see him pushing so hard to get that position back. Amazing sequence down the Mulsanne straight.
3.5 minutes to go, by the way, and the leader's only just coming over the line right now, Scott Pope. So this will be the last lap for Scott Pope. Nearly 40 seconds out front. That is going to be the end of that. Eduardo Benenko is not going to catch from there. I think he really had to fuel save late on here, actually, and really reduce his speed towards the end. Last time I did a 3:35, which is the slowest time inside the top 8 from him last time round. This is Scott Pope to the end, by the looks of things. Between Angelidis and Meyer, doesn't look like either of these have to fuel save. They've just got one more lap to try and battle this out for the race win.
Yeah, this is going to be just going to be a straight fight to the end of the race for these two. Hopefully, they can keep it clean here. But Peter Meyer is chomping at the bit to get through.
Oliver Day is quite close to Ross Smith, by the way, being caught by Ross Smith. They're only 12 seconds in front of Troy Ewan as well, who you might have seen last time round, set the fastest lap of the race overall. And if he can do that again, then he might well be in the game here, but that is quite a big gap, as you can see. And the straight line speed hasn't been brilliant from these cars generally this afternoon, so we will see whether that transpires into anything at all. We'll try and keep an eye on all these battles that are going to go on towards the end, but here comes Smith versus Day down the straight in towards the kink, and Ross Smith does go straight through. I wonder whether Oliver Day's going to get back into the slipstream and come straight back through again here on the last lap. It's going to be hopefully not too much of a hold-up for these two, though. Otherwise, they'll be caught by Troy Ewan. Let's see. It's Ross Smith with, I think that is Scar Pope right behind him, actually, isn't it? As they come down in towards Bullsand Corner. One more lap to go, including this one for Pope, and that is down the inside. The last pass, perhaps, that Scott Pope has to make here this afternoon.
Yeah, it looks like he's, if he can keep it clean and keep it on the paint, he's looking like a surefire winner here at a 45-second lead over Eduardo Barinca, who, let's be real here, I mean, he pounded the air through most of this race in order for Scar Pope to make this this gap work. So really, really well done strategy-wise from Pope today.
Now then, does Elko Bussink hold off Dan Herlock or not? It looks like Herlock's going to get through here. So many things to have a look at on the last lap, by the way. It's hard to keep up with all of it all of a sudden. Bussink, though, behind Herlock for that fourth position, further behind. Tom Lane is only 2.5 seconds in front of them as well. That battle in the podium places is going to be one to watch in the last part of this race as well. There they are, coming down the straight. Bussink and Herlock are exchanging places, so they'll be gaining time here on Tom Lane as well. There they'll come into shot. Oh, my word, as one. Herlock was in front. I know this looks similar to the previous lap, but Herlock was in front beforehand. He's no longer. He's going to have to do it in towards Indianapolis by the looks of things here, with Elko Bussink right in front of him. Tom Lane saving a lot of fuel here. He's trying to hold on to a podium, but he's only got a second over Bussink and Herlock.
Yeah, this is coming down to the wire. Bussink, quite the shocker to come back through on Herlock there. We had been waiting, it feels like almost the entire race for Herlock to go through on Bussink earlier, and he just wouldn't do it. And now he may not have a chance. 14 seconds, 12.
Yeah, let's see how this develops. We've got so much to have a look at here in the last couple of moments, by the way. The seconds are ticking by, and Scar Pope is just going to slow down a little bit more into these final four chicanes to take the victory here. No time remaining on the clock, and that's at the perfect time for Scar Pope, who's going to take victory here in the 2.4 hours of Le Mans. A fantastic victory in the Virtual World Sports Car Championship 1985. What about all the other battles further down? Bussink and Herlock and Lane battling for the podium places. How's that going to pan out in towards the Porsche cars? It looks like Tom Lane is going to have this. Peter Meyer is still in front of George Angelidis as well here, by the way, in that battle for the lead in the AM class, as Herlock can't find his way through on Bussink. My goodness me, after all of that following throughout this race, Herlock is still stuck behind.
He's actually slowed right down now. He's losing time. Huge. Looks like Bussink might be actually trying to make a move on Tom Lane here.
Oh, sorry, it was close. I thought he was off. And he might be off. He's sliding here. The battle for the podium's going to come down to the final chicanes now. Bussink's going to be on the defensive. Oh, and Herlock on the outside. He's going to get them both here. Lane blocks Bussink, and Herlock goes through, steaming through on both of them here. He's struggled through the Porsche curves. He's struggling through the corners, and Herlock is going to take this through third place. Oh, Tom Lane at the end, he's just run out of fuel right at the very last. He was saving as much as he could, but he couldn't quite get to the finish in time. And Dan Herlock's on the podium in the end, ahead of Elko Bussink and Tom Lane as well, who finishes in fifth. What about these two in the AM class? George Angelidis looks like he's slowing as well towards the end now. 3 seconds is the margin for Peter Meyer in a topsy-turvy finish in the AM class as well. He's going to hang on just about ahead of George Angelidis. The gap 3 seconds at the line. What a great finish in the AM class and for third place overall as well.
Yeah, Peter Meyer will be chuffed with that performance coming across the line 3 seconds ahead. Absolute cracker of a race today. I cannot believe up and down the grid the action near the end of this race. This was absolutely amazing.
And by the way, Mr. Reed's making a fantastic point about the race. If Scar Pope had even made one less mistake than actually happened in the race, this race probably would have been one lap longer. And what would that have done to everybody's fuel loads? Because Lane was out of fuel towards the end there. I think Angelidis was a bit short. Benenka seemed to be quite short to me as well, though he had a long gap behind to save. I think if Pope had made one less mistake in this race, it could have played havoc with everybody.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose it's it's a what-if game out there, but at the end of the day, Scar Pope came home in first with just a huge margin. amazing drive from Scar, and Benenka also an amazing drive to hold him off for so long in that race. It was exciting to watch out front. Herlock, we waited for so long for him to make a move, almost didn't make it work at the end there, but just snuck through, and it was a clencher.
What a fantastic finish to that race. The 2.4 hours of Le Mans eventually won by Scar Pope after 40 laps here today because of the rain, slightly shortened in terms of laps anyway. Eduardo Benenka still finishes in that second position and closes the gap to Dan Herlock in the championship, but not by much because Herlock passes Bussing and Lane towards the line for third. Boucher de Bruin finishes sixth overall, headed Tony McCoffin, who unfortunately we didn't see over the line because there was so much else going on, but a congratulations to him for winning the Pro-Am class. Robin Moling finishes eighth ahead of Ross Smith, who was second in Pro-Am, with Oliver Day rounding out the top 10. Those were the first two one lap down, by the way. Troy Ewan was as well. He was on the dry tyres towards the end there, but didn't have enough time to catch anyone inside the top 10. Timon Suvic was next ahead of Magnus Dahlgren after their fairly lengthy penalties earlier. Antonis Paparonopoulos also had a penalty, and he finished 14th in the end. Peter Meyer won in the AM class ahead of George Andelides, a few seconds further behind. Joey Chen joined them on the podium when Vinicius Gonçalves on the dries, making gains towards the end. Stephen Miller finished 3 laps down. Stacey Scott finished 9 laps down, unfortunately, towards the end. Ethan Funk didn't finish, neither did Gus Severt, Adrian Rice, John Ewan, Adam Gray, Tanya Scott, Matthew Sibioni, Santiago Dancourt, or Maximilian Petrovsky, who unfortunately was disqualified, we believe, for not having the headlights on when it basically was not that dark anyway. But anyway, that's besides the point. He got disqualified down towards the end. What a fantastic finish that was. We said, or I said anyway, going into the Porsche curves here, Herlock spent the entire race behind Bussing, and it's going to come to nothing. But in the end, he made the right line choice in towards the Ford chicanes, and he took 2 places in one go. What a fantastic finish that was.
Yeah, just a brilliant run in through them like that. I mean, it's one of those lines you see as a driver, and you're like, really? Do I actually get that? And then you hit it, and you're like, holy, that was awesome. Amazing finish to this race. Just and up and down the grid all day today. A lot of fighting, a lot of action, a lot of offs, mixed weather conditions. Just awesome race.
And I feel like this is exactly what you get as well from longer races as well. You know, as much as I enjoy the 250-kilometre races that we've got as well, of which, by the way, all the races remaining in this calendar are 250-kilometre races. This is exactly what you get from longer racing, 2.4 hours. And, you know, this kind of thing wouldn't have happened over that kind of distance. It's the fact it's a long bit of concentrating and a long bit of driving. And in the end, Scar Pope was able to take that victory. Now, finally, we can chat to our race winner here tonight. Congratulations, Scar, on the victory. How was the conditions out there, and how was the battle with Eduardo Benenka in that race? It was the two of you for the whole of that race, effectively battling for the win.
Yeah, that was crazy. I think I tried to throw away that like 5 different times, but I managed to come through in the end.
We were mentioning that. Actually, somebody made a very good point in YouTube chat that if you'd made one less mistake, that race might have been 1 lap longer, and that would have played everybody's havoc a little bit. But did that frustrate you a little bit, making those mistakes in the race?
Yes, it did. But I was trying so hard for that extra lap because I like seeing people fail at the fuel game.
We've all been there.
Well, I was trying hard. Yeah, that's me.
We've all
Brilliant
been
race
there.
at the end, though. Can you tell us just the last few laps how you were feeling pulling that gap out, knowing that you really had this race kind of in the bag?
Well, as soon as I saw Eduardo still lifting really early, I was like, oh, well, I've got 2 laps of fuel I can burn. I'm just going to burn them and see what happens and see if he's got anything in the bag, and he didn't. So it was just the rain came at sort of the perfect moment because I'd done all my early dry racing fuel saving, and I was like, all right, cool, I'm in the zone. And then that came, and I was like, oh, now I'm going to have a nice 30 minutes or so at the end of the race where I can just go almost flat out. And that was the case. So I was doing basically what I was doing the MNRL race this week, which was fun as well. So and that was a complete blast. Thanks to everyone for doing that. That was great.
Yeah, it was fantastic to watch as well. Congratulations on taking the race win, Scar. Is there anybody you'd like to shout out before we let you go?
Storm Gang, CMS, everyone who was on the track. It was, everyone who involved. You guys, everyone. Thanks a lot.
Thanks very much, Scarpo. Congratulations on the win tonight, and thanks for chatting to us.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Thanks very much. That's Scarpo, who's won this race here in the C1 Pro class here tonight. In Pro-Am, Tony McCofferman as the winner in the end, and Tony now joins us as well. Congratulations, Tony, on the Pro-Am win here tonight. How did you feel out there on the circuit? Because to me, it looked like you were a lot more comfortable in the wet weather rather than the dry, which was probably the opposite of almost every other driver on the field. Would that be accurate to say?
Thank you. Yeah, it was very accurate. I wish it kept raining until the end of the race, because like I just started dropping down when it became dry. We've seen the speed Ilko Bussink and Dan Orlock catch me and then passed me and all of that. But luckily enough, I got like enough gap to the Pro-Am people, so that was all right for me to go to the end that way.
Where did you find it was the trickiest out there today? What phase of the race specifically did you struggle with the most?
I did struggle with like a low speed corner where the car was like oversteery, so it was a bit tricky, especially when wet, like starting to slide a bit on the exit and having to catch it and keep going while still maintaining pace. It's funny because we had so much fuel save to do on the dry that in the end, when it's rain, we are pushing way more for slower lap time, but we end up like it's trickier to drive in the wet, but it's also far better. So I guess that's why I did well, because I was very involved in my driving at that point.
Oh, congratulations on taking the Pro-Am class win and dealing with these conditions, I think, better than anybody, especially when you compare to the dry weather that you were doing as well. So congratulations on that. Is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out to before we let you go?
Thank you. That will be all right. Shout out to everybody that support me and go that way.
Thanks very much. Congratulations, Tony, and thanks for chatting to us.
Bye.
Thanks very much, Tony McCuffin, the winner in the Pro-Am class here tonight in the 2.4 hours of Le Mans. Haven't got the race winner in Am, unfortunately, Peter Meyer, but we have got second place, George Angelidis, who can now chat with us as well. Welcome in, George. Good to have you with us. There's only one place to start, I suppose, with that race, and it is the end of the race, of course. Your battle with Peter Meyer was a fantastic one to watch, I've got to say. You were exchanging the lead even in those last few minutes. How does it feel, though, to come second at the end of that one?
I would have liked to have it on a clean track, because what happened at the end with the cars that they were fighting, they were not fighting for class wins. It was just a regular position on P7 that we're going for the class win. And to be involved, I don't understand it. I truly don't. But especially when Tony was leading his class, because that was really, really good battle. So I started with, I saw that Peter, we were both struggling on tires. I caught up Peter, passed him on after he spun in Indianapolis, but then he had the pace on me, so he overtook me on the straight. Then I quickly chuck it on the kink on the inside, so he had to actually lift. And unfortunately, we had one more lap. So in the one more lap, he basically let me go on the first sector. I thought I could pull a gap so he could not slipstream me, but he did. And he was waiting, and then he just put it on the inside at the kink. So basically to force me. Basically, he did what I did to him on me on the last lap. And then we were having a good battle. I think I was catching him up. I think in the S's something could have happened, but we never find out because the lap cars were involved. I even had cranked the turbo all the way up at that point. That's how I passed 3 cars there in the overlap. But pretty gutted, but it was a good battle at the end. So
we saw fuel play a pretty big role in this race. How easy was it for you out there conserving and still trying to push?
So for us was a very difficult race because I did not know till the last moments, like till 15 minutes, I had no idea how many laps is actually going to go. So we had to actually extra save in the beginning. Then the rain happens and you say, okay, that's going to help out on the fuel saving. But then but you cannot go early on, because what if it becomes dry? Then you start cranking laps, and then it basically eliminates that advantage that you had. So you had to still be disciplined to save. And then with 20 minutes to go, I was seeing that the laps were getting faster and faster. We were matching our fastest. So I was saying, okay, is it going to go one more lap or not less? Can I push, or can I put the turbo boost 2 laps to the end, or the last lap? And then the leader was very close on making that extra lap. So I basically started on the side of caution. And then I didn't use it for the penultimate lap, used it on the final lap, but it was just 1 lap too late.
Well, unfortunately, you won't be able to get that race win, but congratulations on second place. Nevertheless, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out to before we let you go?
Peter, I think that was a very, very fun, good battle. So I'm pretty sure we're going to have more in the championship, because he seems that he's doing everything right now and is topping the charts. But yeah, well, keep pushing, try to get back at him, and then we'll see what the rest of the season has.
Certainly will. Congratulations, as I say, on second place here tonight, and thanks for chatting to us as well.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. George Angelidis there in second place in the AM class here tonight at Le Mans. Well, Shawn, that was fantastic racing. I've got to say, thoroughly enjoyed that. And what a great way to end the first 4 rounds of our season at the most iconic circuit we're going to visit here this season. That was fantastic racing, especially right towards the very end there, even in the final corners.
Yeah, action picked up here and there throughout. The night phase was full of excitement. People on and off track every couple of seconds. A lot of concentration required here, and just an unbelievable end to this race. Amazing. Had a great time.
Absolutely was. Thanks very much for being alongside me, Shawn. That was fantastic to be alongside you for this race. And of course, thanks to James Parfitt as well, who's been behind the cameras here this evening of this Virtual World Sportscar Championship race is the historic side here from Le Mans, the 2.4 hours of Le Mans. The next race is going to be one of the modern races coming up soon. I think it's the rescheduled Qatar race. Actually, I kind of said it was Le Mans earlier, but I think the rescheduled Qatar race is between now and then. So we'll look out for that. But of course, all the races are here same time on a Saturday here on the JP YouTube channel. Not every Saturday, but on a Saturday and the same time, same place. So make sure you join us back again for that one here on the JP YouTube channel for that one. A big thanks finally to everyone who's been tuned in over the course of the evening and keeping us company as well here in this Virtual World Sports Car Championship historic round. For this series, it's going to be until July when we see you next for the 250 kilometres of Monza, as we end out this season with 250 kilometre races all the way to the finish of this championship. 8 more rounds of them, so still plenty more to enjoy. 250 kilometres all the way from now until the finish. 2,000 kilometres overall, so make sure you join us for those. I've been Ewan O'Leary alongside Shawn Pulsifer and Parfitt behind the cameras. We'll see you next time in the historic series, exactly 2 months today. Until then, it's goodbye for now.